गुड मॉर्निंग। सो वी हैव टू पिक अप वेयर वी लेफ्ट यस्टरडे। एक छोटा टॉपिक बचा था। अरे हाँ, हो गया। दैट वाज अ पिट्स इंडिया एक्ट, राइट? सो दैट पिट्स इंडिया एक्ट ऑफ 1780 is named after Pitts, William Pitt. William Pitt was an English prime minister, and he was the son of another Pitt called Pitt the Elder, his father. And his father was also at one point of time the British prime minister. तो दोनों को बोलते हैं विलियम पिट इज द बेटा और फादर इज पिट द एल्डर। ये जो पिट है जिससे लाया है कानून वो बेटा है, ठीक है। सो दिस इज एन एक्ट दैट was brought in order to resolve the crisis that was created by the previous act, the act of 1773 regulating act। तो रेगुलेटिंग एक्ट के बाद जितने सारे क्राइसिस हुए उसको सॉल्व करने के लिए आया था। तो वॉट एवर चेंजेस दैट टुक प्लेस इन दिस एक्ट आर टू बी अंडरस्टूड इन द कॉन्टेक्स्ट ऑफ अर्लियर एक्ट। कंपेरिजन में ही चलेगा ये काम। Now that is one thing. The second thing is that this was the act that was debated for almost 2 years in British Parliament. So it was one of the, at that time, longest debated acts. And उसमें इतना पॉलिटिक्स हुआ कि even the existing government of Britain had to resign. Ministries collapsed and a new government had to get back, और फिर उसके बाद वो कानून पास हुआ है। तो perhaps it was only months in the entire duration of British rule in India कि उनका डोमेस्टिक पॉलिटिक्स इंडिया की वजह से इतना खराब हो गया कि गवर्नमेंट हैड टू रिजाइन। तो ड्यूरिंग दिस पैक्ट ऑफ 1784 एक तरफ थे लॉर्ड फॉक्स एंड लॉर्ड नॉर्थ, दे हैड द कोalition गवर्नमेंट गोइंग ऑन, they brought the act, but there was some opposition. The act was passed, the bill was passed in Lok Sabha, the House of Commons, and when it came into House of Lords, it was defeated with the help of the intervention of the king. और जब डिफीट किया गया इस कानून को तब जाके गवर्नमेंट को रिजाइन करना पड़ा। और फिर पिट कम्स टू पावर, एंड व्हेन पिट कम्स टू पावर ही पासेस द लॉ अगेन विद सर्टेन मॉडिफिकेशन, तब बनता है ये कानून। तो ये बहुत मतलब वहाँ के कारण क्या थे, पॉलिटिक्स क्या था, that is none of our business as much, but we understand that this is an important development in the evolution of the relationship between company and the government, or other colony and the British other country। तो ये बात हुई। Anyway, come to Pitt's India Act. The various limitations of the Regulation Act of 1773 and the increasing pressure of the rival groups on the East India Company in England encouraged the government in Britain to pass another act. And by this act, the British government was finally able to tighten up its grip over the Indian administration. तो ये समझो कि the problems that were created in the earlier act, as we saw the last statement, in the relationship between the parliament and the company, between the director and the governor general, between the governor or governor, between the governor and the council, between the center and the states, ये सारा इनकम्प्लीट था। तो यहाँ पे कोशिश होती है उनको फाइनलिटी देने। दैट इज द मेन पॉइंट। सेकेंडली, दिस एक्ट क्रिएटेड सर्टन स्ट्रक्चर्स ऑफ गवर्नेंस विच बिकेम लॉन्ग लास्टिंग। यहाँ पे एक फ्रेमवर्क बनता है 1784 में। दैट फ्रेमवर्क कंटिन्यूज फॉर नेक्स्ट 3-4 generations till the company is abolished in 1858 with certain modifications। this basic template continues till that point of time। तो यहाँ पे एक सॉलिड बेस मिलता है हाउ टू रेगुलेट द कंपनी फाइनल, इसका कॉन्टेक्स्ट है। We will not, there are lots of, if you read the act closely, there are lots of provisions in, बहुत लंबा कानून, उसमें स्पेसिफिक्स भी है, जैसे कि Hastings has not been able to resolve the problem of revenue, so the governor general who would come next was tasked specifically in the act to look at the revenue issue। Hastings was known to have created some issues with zamindari, so the governor was specifically tasked to look into the resolution of problems of zamindars। ये सब डिटेल्स एक्ट के अंदर है, बट वी डोंट नीड टू गो इन दोस डिटेल। नाइदर डू वी नीड टू गो इनटू द डिटेल्स ऑफ व्हाट हैपेंड इन ब्रिटेन, कि वहां पे कोऑपरेटर क्या हो रहा है, कोऑपरेटर का शेयर होल्डिंग का, वो हमारे काम का है। व्हाट वी आर कंसर्न अबाउट मेजरली इज द मेन फ्रेमवर्क ऑफ एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन इन इंडिया। तो विल लुक एट दोस एस्पेक्ट्स। फर्स्ट पॉइंट, is that the established system of dual control on the Indian affairs. And this is the most important feature. What came? पहले क्या था? पहले ये था कि the companies was supposed to submit the correspondence with India to the parliament or government. बट उसका होगा क्या correspondence का? कौन पढ़ेगा, कितना पढ़ेगा? If they find something, how they will act, how will they regulate? इसके बारे में डिटेल्स नहीं थे. Now you have a new body coming all together, and that was Board of Control. So you have Board of Control, and we have Court of Director. So these are two bodies actually which are on the London side, which take care of all the administration directly, indirectly, but they represent different interests. Board of Director are representing interest of the shareholders, as earlier the same thing, and Board of Control is representing interest of the government. और गवर्नमेंट एंड प्राइवेट बॉडी के जो इन दो बॉडीज हैं इंटरेस्ट होल्डर्स है ये दोनों है एंड दे अल्टीमेटली टसल एंड दे इज द रेगुलेशन ऑफ द रिलेशनशिप बिटवीन द टू दैट इज द होल आइडिया तो you have the board of control comprising of 6 commissioners was created. The board of control was to work as a supervisory capacity on behalf of the parliament. It had no independent executive power. It had no patronage. Its power was veiled. It had access to all the company's papers and its approval was necessary for all dispatches that were not purely commercial. So board of control is just board of control and not actual executive power. They are not doing work directly. वन थे इसमें इशू क्या था इशू ये था कि हास्टिंग्स जब वापस आ रहा है तो खिलाफ जो पूरा माहौल बना था इंग्लैंड में ये प्रॉब्लम्स है करप्शन है ये है वो है उसमें एक ये था कि देयर केम एन एक्सट्रीम ओपिनियन ऑफ नेशनलिज्म कंपनी को पूरा गवर्नमेंट अपने कब्जे में ले ले कंपनी हैज बिकम टू बिग इट हैज बिकम टू पावरफुल इट हैज बिकम टू करप्ट इट हैज बिकम टू प्रॉब्लमेटिक तो लेट अस नेशनलाइज द कंपनी दैट वाज द ओन आर्गुमेंट इन जो डिबेट कानून से पहले चल रहा है इंग्लैंड में लंदन पार्लियामेंट में एंड अदर पार्टी सेइंग ना हम वो तो नहीं करेंगे वो नहीं करेंगे बिकॉज दैट इज गोइंग अगेंस्ट द आइडिया ऑफ प्राइवेट प्रॉपर्टी एंड प्राइवेट प्रॉपर्टी इज सैक्रोसैंक्ट so we cannot do that. I told you about this earlier also कि उन्होंने सिंपल जब कंपनी खत्म भी कर दी थी उसके बाद भी 10 साल तक वो शेयर होल्डर को इंटरेस्ट देते रहे तो सेम थिंग है बट they don't want to impinge upon private property's right but they want to control and regulate the affairs. तो अब यहाँ पे स्ट्रक्चर बनता है the most important part the most important power that the directors had company directors in the court of director वो ये थी कि पैट्रोनेज पावर ऑफ पैट्रोनेज का मतलब क्या होता है दे कैन अपॉइंट द करेक्टर्स एंड ऑफिसर्स इंडिया में कौन जाएगा कहाँ काम करेगा मतलब इफ यू हैव पावर ऑफ पैट्रोनेज इट मीन्स यू कैन कंट्रोल एंटर एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन आपका मंदिर लगा सकते हो आप बट पैट्रोनेज इज नॉट हैपनिंग तो उसको एग्जाम नहीं है देयर इज नो यूपीएससी यूपीएससी कम्स इसके 70 साल बाद ठीक है अभी तो क्या है जो डायरेक्टर चाहे जिसको लगा दे भाई तू मेरे भतीजा है तू बंदे आईएएस सिस्टम प्राइवेट कंपनी है और उस केस में व्हेन यू वांट टू रिड्यूस करप्शन you have to put main of integrity on the spot. It means you should be able to regulate the appointments also. But the moment you want to regulate the appointments, it means you're taking the rights of the property holders away from their property. So कैसे करें? That was the struggle. So and they created board of control, but it had no independent executive power. Neither it had the power of patronage. That is the main point. Then it was the court of directors that actually governed the Indian Empire, who are representing shareholders' interests. It retained its control over commerce and patronage, but only with the approval of the crown would it appoint its principal servants in India, such as Governor General, governors, and Commander in Chief. So, what they had done in the Regulating Act, they had mentioned the names of Hastings plus 4 people, like Francis and Mason and Barwell, etc. Now, they are saying for every future appointment also you need our approval, at least in these top positions. तो पैट्रोनेज पावर लेके नहीं रखी पूरी बट आप ही को करना है हमारा अप्रूवल चाहिए इट्स लाइक द असल डू वी हैव टुडे बिटवीन एग्जीक्यूटिव एंड जुडिशियरी well instructions would be sent out to India by or via the court of directors but there was a provision for bypassing the court of director and conveying orders directly to the Fort Williams through secret committee अब ये एक important बात है that here you have Calcutta and communication is like this Normal communication is like this. But there was a provision for a secret communication channel, whereby the government could bypass the owners of the company and talk to India directly. It was exercised very rarely, but it was provided for in the act itself. Up come to India. In India, the act elevated the status of Governor General to a very large extent, and in this sense it was an improvement upon the regulating act. तो इसमें दो चीजें हैं, तीन चीजें करनी है. How do you want to improve the status of Governor General? First of all, vis-a-vis the council. Second of all, vis-a-vis the Supreme Court. And तीसरा है vis-a-vis the provinces, the presidencies. तो इन तीनों पे काम हुआ है. सुप्रीम कोर्ट वाला बहुत legalistic है. We don't need that. What we focus on is the council and presidencies. So it made the Governor General in India a royal appointment, while his authority over his council and over the presidencies was somewhat enhanced. Governor General's council was reconstituted by reducing its strength from 4 to 3. अब काउंसिल कंप्लीटली अगर उसके खिलाफ जाए तभी वोटिंग होगा 3 वर्सेस 1, या फिर अगर 2 to 1 होता है तो गवर्नर विल ऑलवेज हैव अ मेजर पावर. More powers were concentrated in the hands of the Governor General so that his authority might not be constrained by the council. The Bombay and Madras presidencies were subordinated to Bengal in all matters of war, diplomacy, and revenues in an ambiguous term. Thus, a clear hierarchy of command and more direct parliamentary control over Indian administration was established. अब यहाँ पे बात ये हो रही है कि main idea is to create the Governor General who is all powerful. बात है कि did it really did so? Was it really able to do so? क्या लग रहा है आपको? कर पाएंगे? पहली बात तो ये है, इंडिया इज फार अवे, देयर इज नो सुएज कैनाल, देयर इज नो, देयर विल ऑलवेज बी some leeway to the people. Secondly, now the Governor General actually got two masters, COD and BOC. So he was politically able to play one against the another and thereby extract as much autonomy as he wanted. तो ये चीजें होती हैं. तो सेंट्रलाइजेशन was attempted but was not always successful in 1784 Act. What to do? तो इसके बाद actually we have the process. This act fits in the act that continues through multiple future acts and culminates in the Act of 1833 when you have this process of centralization reaching its peak. तो यहाँ पे 1784 है, you have 1793, 1813 and 1833. Through multiple acts, gradually the centralization of the authority in the hands of governor was increased and reached peak in 1833. But in 1784, it was not completely successful due to one major reason, that there were two bodies and he's able to play one against another. The second thing is that in 1786, when the next governor was to be appointed to India, and he was Cornwallis. Cornwallis ने कहा, I will come to India, no problem, I have two conditions. बशर्ते आप मेरी दो चीजें मांगे पूरी करो. What are those? Firstly, in any case, if I feel it required, I should have the power to override the council authority. अगर 3 versus 0 भी हो जाए, तो काउंसिल पूरा मेरे खिलाफ दो, फिर भी I want power to overrule council, तभी मैं आऊंगा इंडिया पे. And secondly, he said, I don't want to be only Governor General, I also want to be the head of the Indian Army, British Indian Army. So the head of military and head of civilian, they had to be combined into one single post. इतने मुझे आप दो पावर अगर दे दो, I can overrule the council and I have military at my command. Only then I will be able to function properly, give you results. तभी मैं इंडिया जाऊंगा और नहीं जाता. So for satisfying his demand, it was actually allowed. So we have an amendment that came in 1786. यहाँ बीच में. Certainly it is amendment in which these two things were there. Governor got power to overrule the council and the post of military head and civilian head was combined, were combined. So we have those things going on. So the significance of the Pitt's India Act lies in the fact that hereafter the East India Company became an organ of the broader British national interest because parliamentary supervisory control. India was to play a subservient role in the interest of the British ruling class. तो अब यहाँ से British ruling class will get a better handle over controlling India's affairs. An effective and authoritarian instrument of control was thus put in place, which continued till 1858 only with little modifications. According to Professor P. Roberts, the Act converted the company into a quasi-state department and rendered its final abolition in 1858 merely a formal and explicit recognition of the facts that are already existing. So यहाँ से लेके you have 1853 also, and then ultimately 1858. Progressively, from Pitt's India Act to 1858, companies' actions, companies' authorities' rights are made hollow one by one. And then when it was actually abolished, it was just a ghost that was there. उसके अंदर का सब्सटेंस जो है वो ज़्यादा बचा नहीं था, धीरे धीरे पहले से हटा दिया था. सेम थिंग विथ आर्टिकल 370. 370 नाम का तो फ्रेमवर्क था, बट 50, 60, 70, 80 ग्रेजुअली हम इसको खोखला तो कर दिया था सक्सीडिंग गवर्नमेंट ने. The same thing is happening here कि when company goes back, it is actually, तो इसकी शुरुआत कहाँ से होती है? 1884 से होती है. ठीक है, सिंपल पॉइंट. लेट अस मूव ऑन. यहाँ पे they have not asked a question on Pitt's India Act separately so far ever. If they ask a question, I guess it will be how it was an improvement over 1773 and was it effective or not. ये एक सवाल हो सकता है. या फिर दूसरा सवाल ये हो सकता है कि was it able to create the centralization in the hands of Governor General, to what extent it was effective. These are the two major aspects of it. Sure. So I come to second phase. Here we'll try to cover Cornwallis and his reforms, and then some aspects of economic policy in mercantile phase, जो कि हमने cover कर चुके हैं indirectly already. Look at the previous questions first. One question on judicial reforms we have, but it is a very generic question, not particular to Cornwallis, but in long duration question. Discuss the basic features of the judicial administration under East India Company. Did the British introduce the modern concept of rule of law? It was a question was asked in 1986, but it's a very advanced type of question, whereby what do you mean by modern concept of rule of law and was it really implemented in India? तो इसको आंसर करने के लिए हमें आगे भी जाना पड़ेगा. इवन दिस चैप्टर इज नॉट सफिशिएंट, वी हैव टू गो बियॉन्ड इट बिकॉज दिस इज नॉट टॉकिंग अबाउट एनी एरा एस्पेक्ट, 18th सेंचुरी एज वेल एज 19th सेंचुरी. तो जब पूरा खत्म होगा तो इकट्ठा उसको दोबारा देखेंगे. बट वी हैव सीन वन एस्पेक्ट ऑफ इट, कोडिफिकेशन, rationalization, etc. Now we'll see the second aspect today in Cornwallis Code. Then we'll see something else in there of Macaulay, and then we'll criticize all of them together to arrive at the conclusion कि सच में किया है कि नहीं किया. Otherwise, all other questions that have been asked, 4-5 साल में एक सवाल आ जाता है, that is जमींदारी settlement, the permanent settlement. So let me read all the questions one by one. Trace the circumstances that led to the introduction of permanent settlement in Bengal. Discuss its impact on landlords, peasants, and government. Very simple question, great question, 60 marker. The permanent settlement of land revenue in Bengal was a bold, brave, and wise measure. Comment. तो ये comment जिसने दी होगी, he is praising it. It was a good thing, and it comment, was it really a good thing? Show how British rule led to the spread of landlordism in certain parts of India, how the peasants were progressively impoverished under this rule. This question again is not explicitly about जमींदारी. जमींदार का नाम तो आ गया, इस पर जमींदारी कैसे फैल गई, बट इट इज नॉट स्पेसिफिक, क्योंकि इसमें एक्चुअली उल्टा भी है. Sometimes in the case of Rayatwadi and Mahalwadi also, how the situations arose whereby वहाँ का जो local होगा आदमी who is analogous to जमींदार that became entrenched and powerful. ये भी हुआ है, तो हमें इसमें सब लेके आना है एग्जाम्पल्स में. The permanent system of Bengal, though initiated with best of intentions, was sadly a blundering affair. अब ये क्वेश्चन लिखने में लगता अलग है. I think this is a bit of this question only. Then you say best of intentions. What are those? Bold, brave and wise measures. These are the intentions. And then you say कि अफेयर ब्लंडरिंग था, काम नहीं किया, तो वहाँ पे कमेंट वही लिखने वाले थे, काम नहीं हुआ. Same question repeated in different words. Then again bold, brave and wise measure. Absentee landlordism was a consequential feature of Bengal's permanent land settlement. Comment. It's very simple question. What happened? Why it emerged? Consequences. Then permanent settlement disappointed many expectations and introduced results that were not anticipated. वही बात थी, expectation कुछ और थे, हुआ कुछ और. Though the permanent settlement had serious defects, it gave tranquility to the countryside and stability to the government. तो ये है क्वेश्चन रिसेंट 2009 का कि भाई ठीक है, सब कुछ खराब तो कर दिया आपने, बट अल्टीमेटली यू गॉट ट्रैंक्विलिटी एंड स्टेबिलिटी. तो वी से नॉट इन इमीडिएट टर्म्स, आफ्टर डिकेड्स ऑफ एक्सप्लॉयटेशन एक जगह एक समय आता है तब ये हो जाता है, आफ्टर 50-60 साल के बाद. The passing of the land from the hands of the peasant proprietors into the hands of non-cultivating landlord brought about increasing polarization of classes in agrarian areas. Again, same question, how the class relationship, the class structure altered. मतलब क्या है, peasant बना poor, landlord बना absentee, और बीच में आ गया hierarchy. Then explain how the permanent settlement initiated a rule of property in Bengal and what were its consequences. Consequences क्या है भाई? The question of 2022 में पूछा what are the consequences? Go to question 2018. These are the consequences. Increasing polarization, non-cultivating land pass होना यहाँ से हुआ, तो उन्होंने इसी क्वेश्चन को चेंज कर दोबारा डाल दिया. This have used PYQ correlation in between all of them. Almost same question यहाँ पे है, what are the consequences of permanent settlement? Full stop. Different terms. क्या चाहते थे, क्या हो गया? So we'll do that gradually. But we have to look at Cornwallis' efforts entirely about settlement. We have the extension of the statement we had seen earlier by Percival Spear Saab. If Clive founded the British Indian state, Warren Hastings gave it coherence and made it politically viable. It was Cornwallis who gave it definite form and stamped on it characteristics of its own. तो आपको बेसिक आइडिया ये है कि that 4 major governors or generals, Clive, Hastings, Cornwallis and Wellesley. These 4 major constitute the first 50 years of the company's rule, and उनके wars तो देख लिए हमने, अब उनके देख रहे हैं civilian works. The arrival of Lord Cornwallis as the Governor General marked the beginning of a new era in the history of British India. उस समय तक the arguments and counter arguments that were going on in circles of officers and in British government, ये इंडिया का क्या करे, पॉलिसी ये रहे, मतलब in the Hastings was so unfortunate in a way that was the most polarized debate in Britain at that time against what to do, what not to do. सब लोग बटे हुए थे उस. By the end जो हास्टिंग का ओपिनियन था, उसकी जो साइड थी वो तो बरी निकल गया, उसको कोई सजा नहीं हुई. But the side of the argument that he had taken up, that dissolved by 1780s, late 80s. तो जब तक कॉर्नवालिस आता है, डिबेट सारे तो लगभग खत्म हो गए, एंड देयर इज क्लैरिटी पे करना क्या है. The appointment of Cornwallis as Governor General was the direct result of the controversies aroused by the acts of Clive and that of Hastings. भाई इसको सॉल्व करो सारे मेस को. British had already lost America, so they tried to strengthen its rule in India through various reforms of Cornwallis. So simple है कि British lost one empire, that is in America. They wanted to gain another empire, that is in India. So it was again the same Cornwallis who actually surrendered on behalf of British in the surrender at Yorktown. अमेरिका में सरेंडर हुई है अमेरिका के सामने ब्रिटिश, वो इसी ने करा है कॉर्नवालिस ने. और I have the मतलब you are the general of the army which surrendered in front of the so-called enemy. You lost the huge empire of the country. उसके बाद भी you are a good friend of prime minister. गिरी तुम्हें टांग ऊपर के तरीका जो है ना, he is not feeling that thing कि भाई क्या, he is just feeling I need to rectify it by doing something somewhere. That's all. Otherwise his stature doesn't diminish in the whole set of British aristocratic circles for some reason. Cornwallis उसकी इसीलिए कहता है कि if you want me to go to India, I have these 2 conditions. I should be able to sideline the majority of the council and I need the military power also. And he actually comes with all this and he is able to do that. उसके लिए सिर्फ अलग से कानून पास किया गया in 1786, that is the Amendment to Pitt's India Act. And secondly, not only because of the amendment of Pitt's India Act, but also because Cornwallis was himself a very close friend of Pitts the younger. तो प्राइम मिनिस्टर का इनर सर्कल से वो बिलोंग करता था. He was also an aristocrat himself with a huge land, and therefore he had a lot of power in his hand, influential, directly and indirectly. मतलब although the power of patronage is in the hand of board of control, court of director, Cornwallis is not appointed by court of director. He is an outsider person to the company, sent by the government, and he has been given exclusive authority by changing the act, and also informal authority because he's friend of the prime minister. And prime minister उसके कंधे पे हाथ रख के बोला था, बेटा इंडिया जा रहा है, मेरे लिए जा कुछ कर वहाँ पे, हमारी वाट लगी है वहाँ पे. That is what prime minister personally told him, and everybody knew that he has full trust and authority. Even the company के owners couldn't do much. All the reforms he brought completely changed lots of things in legal sphere, in revenue sphere, etc. And even he was the one who went on aggression to ensure कि टीपू के साथ युद्ध हो. टीपू सुल्तान जो कि फर्स्ट एंड सेकंड वॉर में they were not able to defeat मैसूर. It is Cornwallis who was able to defeat Tipu and get half of the Mysore. वो कहानी देखिए, any letter of friends to निजाम वगैरह. So certain broad principles of the relationship of India with Britain were worked out. The impeachment of Warren Hastings showed that henceforth no one could act tyrannically in India and hope to get away with. It was clear that there was to be no private mercantile British dominion in India. So this is not going to be affair of some people who just want to loot India. This is going to be the national interest. Empire has to serve the national interest. Private company हो ना हो फर्क नहीं पड़ता. That is completely now clarified. Then Cornwallis was guided by a sense of racial superiority and especially a sense of British egoism. British egoism. मतलब क्या है? उसका क्लियर फंडा है कि भाई देखो, we are white people, we are superior. Not only because of our blood and skin color, but also because of our culture and institutions. And आपका जो है वो inferior है, so I will do couple of things. Firstly, at higher echelons of bureaucracy, I will appoint only white people, Indians are dismissed. Army हो, civilian हो, जो कुछ, वहाँ पे हम trust नहीं करते. Beyond certain pay scale, you are not deserving of the scale, हमारे बंदी काम करें. But it is not only about the appointment of people, it is also about the bringing in of the principles of government. What was good for British is also good for, what is good for goose is good for gander. कहावत तो है ही. सेम बात उसने समझी कि भाई यहाँ पे है तो यहाँ पे क्यों नहीं सकता, बल्कि इवन वन स्टेप अहेड, इट वाज गुड फॉर अस, वी आर सुपीरियर, तो आपके ऊपर थोपा जाएगा वो. तो ही ब्रॉट प्रिंसिपल्स ऑफ एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन ऑल्सो. ठीक है. फॉर एग्जाम्पल, ही ट्राइड टू एस्टेब्लिश रूल ऑफ लॉ और द एब्सोल्यूट प्राइवेट ओनरशिप ऑफ लैंड that we see in permanent settlement and all those. So a landed gentleman, English to the backbone and proud of his heritage, he was convinced that English ways were right and best. C.H. Phillips. His reforms gave social and political stability to Bengal, but neglected Indians from administration and ignored the rights of the lesser landholders. So, ये हो गया पूरा contextualization. Now you go to Cornwallis Code. Now, actually, there is nothing called as Cornwallis Code originally. He came to India in 86-87 itself. By the time the code came, he is about to go back. तो कोड क्या है? कोड नया कुछ नहीं है. आने के बाद पहले 5 साल में he is bringing judicial plans one after another. He is going for experiments. So when those plans ultimately succeeded in creating something, उसने किसी को टास्क कर दी कि भाई काम कर, मेरे जो सारे कोड अब तक रहे हैं, अलग अलग प्लान्स रहे, तो तू मर्ज कर दे, एक नया फाइल बना अच्छे से, and remove the inconsistencies, put the latest thing there. That is Cornwallis Code. ऐसे कोई कोड अलग से नहीं बना है, उसके जुडिशियल प्लान्स है. प्लान ऑफ 1787, 1790, 93, they all merged into one single code, that is Cornwallis Code. That is one. Secondly, although the plans are about judiciary, these things are all interconnected with each other. The judicial changes are about executive, they are about land revenue. तो ये सब है. तो इसी कॉर्नवालिस कोड के अंदर यू विल सी परमानेंट सेटलमेंट, इसी कॉर्नवालिस कोड के अंदर यू विल सी जुडिशियल रिफॉर्म, इसी कॉर्नवालिस कोड के अंदर यू विल आल्सो सी द रिफॉर्म्स इन सिविल एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन. All these things are extension of Cornwallis Code itself. The code is not only about judiciary. ठीक है. Now Communists sought to address issues of corruption and inefficiency in the East India Company's administration and focused on restructuring the administrative and judicial systems in India to provide a new framework conducive for trade and investment. The early stage of Company's lawmaking came to a climax with Cornwallis Code. It contained a series of regulations regarding governing, policing, judiciary, civil administration that remained in force till 1833. So what are those? We'll go one by one. The first and a very important one is legal change. This legal change is to be understood in the context of the evolution over and above what Hastings had done. We have already seen Hastings ने क्या किया था, कल ही देखा है हमने. तो एक कदम आगे चलते हैं. So Cornwallis was the real architect of modern Indian judicial system. He tried to bring rule of law to ensure a uniform system of justice based on principle of equality before the law. He tried to create a more standardized, predictable, and transparent system, and reorganize entire structure of the court system. कि नीचे municipal court, district court, Sadar Diwani, provincial court, etc., etc. But this thing will not do because we don't need to memorize. कभी पूछा नहीं आज तक, ना मैं याद करने में. But he restructured the court organization. What is more substantive for us is firstly he tried to humanize the criminal code. He was in disagreement with certain aspects of the Sharia. He thought that it was barbarous and tried to make it more humane. So he took some parts of Sharia and amended them to bring in English, British principles into it. So the consequence was that the Indian legal code became one of the most enlightened in the world. So ठीक है. And then he insisted on British-like procedures in the court. And there is no CPC CRPC back then, but CPC CRPC का root जो है, you see here in his Cornwallis Code. It was clearly laid down that all district courts were to administer fixed forms of law. You can't change arbitrarily. Secondly, open trials were to be conducted. All the cases had to be dealt in open trial, open court. There should not be any correspondence between judges and the parties involved. Or ex parte communication, जिसको कहते हैं ex parte, that is not allowed. Everybody had right to approach the court either personally or through the vakil. So it is simply the modernization of the access to justice for the people. Now a witness could belong to any caste. अब यहाँ पे थोड़ा सा कॉमेडी ये है कि any caste can be a witness against any other caste. पहले नहीं था. If you are a Shudra or below Shudra, then you cannot be a witness in a case against Brahmin. आपकी औकात नहीं थी. अब वो उसने हटा दिया कि भाई witness is witness, caste doesn't matter. But there is a limit. Something else matters, skin color. So in the trial against Gora, an Indian cannot be a witness. वो तो अलग है, वो तो difference चलता रहेगा. The intention rather than a type of weapon was more emphasized. So we have this mens rea, actus rea thing going on. You know that, right? You know that? Mens rea, actus rea, जानते हो? You have basically in crime 4 elements. Mens rea, actus rea, concurrence, and correspondence. It's a basic of law. These are the 4 elements of any crime. अगर आप वकील अगर हो, कोर्ट में कोई केस आप चला रहे हो, लड़ रहे हो, behalf of your party, and you want to prove कि ये कोई किसी ने कत्ल किया है, crime has taken place. To prove that crime has taken place, you have to prove this 4 part separately. बहुत जरूरी होता है. Then otherwise the crime is not known. What is mens rea? That I want to kill you. Actus rea, I actually am killing you. Concurrence, my intention comes before the action. And correspondence, my intention and action are the same things. Then it was premeditated, cold-blooded murder. तुम जाके आप प्रूव करते हो कोर्ट. तो आपको चारों चीजें जैसे मौका और मकसद, ये जो बात है वो क्या है? So मकसद is this one, mens rea. You had intention. If you had no intention but still you killed somebody. जैसे कि मैं हवा में हाथ ऐसे कर रहा था, लग गया तो मर गया भाई. I was trying to kill a bird, गोली यहाँ से वहाँ चली गई, आदमी मर गया. So I had no intention but still the person got killed. So it is not the murder, first degree murder, second degree murder. इट इज नॉट अ कल्पेबल होमिसाइड, मे बी, हु नोज। या फिर आई एम एक्टिंग इन सेल्फ डिफेंस, आप मुझे मारने आए थे, मैंने उल्टा हाथ लगाया तो आप मर गए, सेल्फ डिफेंस could have led, right? Different, the reasons of murder could be many, very many. I have lost my mind, temporary insanity. So if I am एकदम स्पीड ऑफ एंगर में करता हूँ जो काम, मैं आई एम नॉट इन कंट्रोल ऑफ माई सेल्फ, तो आई एम नॉट completely responsible for what I did. So you have to identify what is the mens rea. So काम तो actus rea क्या है? You have gone and killed somebody, but for what reason? If this is the same thing and this mens rea changes, so does change the proportion of the culpability and therefore the intensity of the punishment. If you act in self-defense, punishment नहीं होगी शायद आपको, but if you have planned everything properly, maybe highest punishment, and in between your different stages of punishments. So intention is also very important. Intention was not given as much importance earlier in Indian law. शरिया में जाओ या किसी में जाओ, now that becomes important. समझ में आ रहा है? अब नहीं, डोंट यू वॉच कोर्ट रूम ड्रामास अ लॉट? आई डू। हाँ, तो उसमें जैसे बैटर्ड वाइफ सिंड्रोम फॉर एग्जांपल। तो एनीवे, इट्स माय फेवरेट जॉनरा, कोर्ट रूम ड्रामास। ठीक है। तो व्हाट ही डिड इज द इंटेंशन रादर देन द टाइप ऑफ वेपन वाज मोर एम्फसाइज्ड। while determining कितना सजा होगा उसको। तो सेपरेशन ऑफ पावर्स, दिस इज द नेक्स्ट पॉइंट, and it is an important point, separation of powers. Cornwallis separated judicial and revenue functions which had been clubbed earlier. उसका सिंपल बात यह है कि system has to be more transparent and accountable, and a collector who has vested with all the judicial powers earlier, judicial, revenue, criminal, collection, तो एग्जीक्यूटिव जुडिशियल पावर कलेक्टर के अंदर मर्ज हो गई थी, उसको अलग करना चाहता था। अब ये जो पॉइंट है कि डिस्ट्रिक्ट कलेक्टर नाउ वाज रिस्पॉन्सिबल ओनली फॉर रेवेन्यू कलेक्शन and not assessment, not determination of revenue. And second point is civil justice is in the hands of district judge. तो ये सेपरेशन उसको करना था ताकि जो आज का सिस्टम भी वही है, बट द पॉइंट दैट हाउ वाज ही एबल टू डू दैट? इट इज पॉसिबल ओनली व्हेन डिस्ट्रिक्ट कलेक्टर डजंट हैव टू गो एंड डिसाइड कि असेसमेंट करना, मेजरमेंट करना, डिटरमिनेशन ऑफ रेवेन्यू करना। तो फॉर दिस सेपरेशन ऑफ पावर देयर वाज अ प्री कंडीशन, एंड दैट वाज permanent settlement. If you don't have permanent settlement, number is not fixed. If it is going to change every year, then assessment आएगी, measurement आएगा, corruption आएगा, transparency खत्म हो जाएगी, and there is lots of decision making power in the judicial power also in the hand of collector. So this thing is premised on the fact that Congress is trying to bring in permanent settlement also. These things are connected. ठीक है, हम देखते नहीं है connection, but they connected. In control of judiciary over executive, all executive officers, including the collector, were made amenable to the jurisdiction of the court personally. Thus, for the first time, the privilege was given to the people against companies officials who might commit any wrong against them. Earlier, only remedy was to move to a petition to the Governor General in Council at Calcutta. And then not only the government officials, but also government's own liability. For the first time, the liability of the government for its wrongs and wrongs committed by its officers during the duties was recognized. एंड ब्रिटिश सब्जेक्ट्स वेयर मेड एमेनेबल टू द दीवानी अदालत। तो यहाँ भी रेशियल वाला एक इक्वालिटी लेके आया है, लायबिलिटी ऑफ गवर्नमेंट, ऑफ द ऑफिसर्स, ऑफ सेपरेशन ऑफ पावर, विटनेस, वी हैव ओवरऑल सीपीसी सीआरपीसी का रूट एंड ह्यूमनाइजेशन। सो दिस इज द मॉडर्नाइजेशन, दिस इज ऑल स्ट्रक्चरल चेंजिंग एंड ऑल दिस थिंग्स एड अप टू रूल ऑफ लॉ। दे आर द बेसिक थिंग ऑफ रूल ऑफ लॉ। वी हैव लायबिलिटी ऑफ गवर्नमेंट, जुडिशियरी, एग्जीक्यूटिव पावर्स गेटिंग सेपरेटेड। अगर ये नहीं होगा, हाउ विल यू हैव रूल ऑफ लॉ? ठीक है। So thus he created a system of European style courts independent of the executive, replacing the corrupt and inefficient Mughal system. This was supposed to improve access to justice and help to curb corruption. It was expected that the new system would stabilize landed relations, provide security for property, and make people's right explicit. So all the changes that are coming in the judicial domain are actually the reflection of the need of the revenue collection. बस अगर उनके मन में होता कि जुडिशियल काम करना ही नहीं करते वो, बिकॉज दे वांटेड टू कलेक्ट रेवेन्यू स्मूथली, दे हैड टू इंटरवीन इनटू ऑल दिस थिंग, है ना? व्हाट वाज द आउटकम? व्हाट डू यू थिंक व्हाट वाज द आउटकम? परिणाम क्या हुआ? सच में रूल ऑफ लॉ आया? देयर पीपल बेनिफिट, पीपल सफर इमेंसली। एक तो ऑन वन हैंड ट्रेडिशनल सिस्टम ऑफ जस्टिस, जो पंचायत है, एक रिकंसिलिएशन इन द कम्युनिटी है, सब खत्म हो गया। दे हैड नो लीगल वैलिडिटी। ऑन द अदर हैंड, न्यू सिस्टम वाज सो एलियन, so frustrating, nobody could understand, especially if you are poor and illiterate। वकील किसको अफोर्ड होता है? नहीं होता। लिखा पढ़ी करके कौन रखता है? नहीं रखता। इफ यू हैव इंपॉर्टेंस टू द डॉक्यूमेंट्स नाउ, प्रैक्टिस के साथ साथ एविडेंस हो, सब कुछ हमारे ओरल होता है, वी डोंट कैरी एविडेंसेस। तो अफोर्डेबिलिटी, एक्सेस, एविडेंस, तो इसमें दोज पीपल हु वर वीकर, 90% of Indians at that time suffered immensely in the foreign system of government, foreign system of law. But on the face of it, it all looks like rule of law चल रहा है, बढ़िया है। Only those जमींदार्स who were rich and powerful, influential, who could afford to include वकील, and वही लोग हैं जमींदार कौन? आप समझो उस जमाने में, if you are a district collector in interior of Bengal, आज से 200 साल पहले, 250 साल पहले, तो वहां पे whom will you spend your evenings with? शाम को किसके साथ आप बातें किया? हाँ, कितने हैं आपके डिस्ट्रिक्ट में? 5, 3, 2, राइट? सो यू हैव कलेक्टर, यू हैव मे बी, अगर इफ यू हैव अ कैंटोनमेंट तो वहाँ पे कोई जनरल होगा, एंड देन यू हैव डिस्ट्रिक्ट जज, देन यू हैव वन और टू मेजर जमींदार्स, और वहीं 1-2 मर्चेंट्स एंड बैंकर्स। यही तो आपका बनेगा। अभी भी यही होता है, इवन टुडे इफ यू आर इन डिस्ट्रिक्ट, द सेम थिंग हैपेंस, यू हॉबनॉम विद द सेम पीपल। फिर इंडस्ट्रियलिस्ट, 2 एमपी, 4 एमएलए, डिस्ट्रिक्ट जज, आप कलेक्टर, एक एसपी, और 2-3 इंटेलेक्चुअल पीपल। यही तो आपका ग्रुप बनता है वहाँ पे, और क्या करें? So if you are coming together every evening or every weekend and spending time together, then cases will come each against each other। उस समय आप क्या करो? है ना? तो वो एक syndicate indirectly बनने की संभावना बहुत ज़्यादा होती है। वहाँ पे वो हुआ, but then you have Cornwallis's father of civil services। Here you have both civil and police service, मतलब admin and police। So personnel was divided into 3 branches: revenue, judicial, and commercial। Now, this is an important aspect for you to understand. Even till this point of time, in 1780s and 90s, company is still a trading company। The main purpose of the company is commerce। The maximum people are employed in the commercial branch of the company। यानी commercial लोग जो थे, जिनको अकाउंट करना आता था, जो राइटर्स थे, यही लोग आते जाके एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन में आ गए। उनका स्किल सेट था ना, नॉलेज था। So पहली बार कॉर्नवालिस ने किया सेपरेट फंक्शंस। कमर्शियल विंग ऑफ द कंपनी विल बी डिफरेंट एंड एडमिनिस्ट्रेटिव विंग विल बी डिफरेंट। एडमिन विंग विल हैव जुडिशियल एंड रेवेन्यू फंक्शंस। उसने कहा कि भाई कमर्शियल सर्विसेज of the company were clearly demarcated from administrative services। Servants of the company were directed to make their choice between the two। आप एक चुन लो, आप दोनों नहीं हो सकते, either going to admin side or going to commerce side। Still many people chose to go to commerce side। एडमिन के बच्चे में कौन पढ़ना चाहिए? कॉमर्स में, तो यू कैन डू योर ओन बिजनेस और हैव लॉट्स ऑफ मनी। दैट इज द मेन आइडिया ऑफ द कंपनी। सो फॉर कंपनी आल्सो, internally the commercial branch was much more important even at this point of time। स्टेट फंक्शन हुए हैं, मतलब कोई चाहता भी है वहां पे, तो हाउ टू मेक देम lucrative, that was the main thing। So to curb the corruption and to make the judicial revenue functions lucrative for the people or the company officers, Congress suspended the whole board of revenue for irregularities and enforced the new rules against the private trade। While a merchant, one could still trade on one's own, an official had to be content with the handsome salary। He insisted on the company providing generous salaries in its place। उसने कहा कि फिर इन मर्चेंट साइड आप धंधा करो, अपना कोई दिक्कत नहीं, प्राइवेट ट्रेड इज एज बिफोर कैन गो ऑन, बट इफ यू कम टू एडमिन साइड, आप बिजनेस नहीं कर सकते। यू कांट बी द गवर्नमेंट एंड बिजनेसमैन बोथ एट द सेम टाइम, देन यू विल नॉट डिस्पेंस गवर्नमेंट फंक्शंस प्रॉपरली। बट आपका नुकसान हम भर के दे देंगे। व्हाट विल हैव, कलेक्टर सैलरी वाज फिक्स्ड एट 1500 रुपए पर मंथ प्लस 1% ऑफ द शेयर ऑफ रेवेन्यू। ही वाज वेरी हाईली पेड। इट बिकेम सच अ हैंडसम सैलरी कि it became a most sought after position in the entire world at that time। 1% of the revenue collected, इंसेंटिव दिया है कलेक्टर को। 1% इज a huge amount। उस समय के कंटेम्पररी जो डिस्ट्रिक्ट कलेक्टर्स पूरी दुनिया भर में होंगे, amongst all of them, Indian collector was most highly paid, most highly। हेवन बॉर्न सर्विस की शुरुआत यहाँ से। कलेक्टर was formed by Hastings, but he was given importance by Cornwallis। The Cornwallis implemented a district-based administrative structure. He divided the provinces into districts. Each district was headed by a collector who was responsible for revenue collection and administration. It's a simple matter. And foundation of Thana police system. So this is for revenue collection and this is for Thana police connections. So the modern Indian police dates back to days of Cornwallis. Earlier, zamindars were supposed to do policing work, but Cornwallis divested them of this right. The police power was henceforth to be vested in the magistrate, who was directed to divide his district into police jurisdiction or thanas. Each such thana was to be headed by a daroga, and for every nearly 400 square mile, one officer and daroga was appointed as in charge. The duty of daroga was restricted to apprehension and production of criminals before the magistrate. The police reforms of Cornwallis, despite later modifications, remained the basis of police organization in colonial India for nearly 2 centuries. ये समझने में बड़ा आसान है. I just want to add a couple of things. Firstly, here also you will see the role of zamindar is getting diminished. Somehow this whole system of Cornwallis that he brought was pitted against the rights of zamindars. Not only in the revenue collection. Zamindar का पहले role क्या होता था? In medieval India, you would know zamindar is not only collecting revenue for the state. He is there because of his rights of inheritance. Caste relationship उसके गांव के साथ है. He takes care of irrigation structure, common land, provides services to this region, in exchange of which he loots people. But in the crisis, he helps people also. So it's a love-hate relationship between the zamindar and the people. अब जमींदार के एक हाथ, if you see Hastings के जो reforms थे, one of that reforms, zamindar was no more allowed to impose any kind of toll taxes. जीएसटी स्ट्रक्चर लाया था हास्टिंग ने, तो टैक्सेस वर रिमूव. जमींदार के टैक्सेशन पावर, एक्स्ट्रा टैक्स जो है बिजनेस में, ट्रेड में, मर्केंटाइल, वो हटा दी जमींदार के. जमींदार वाज रिस्ट्रिक्टेड ओनली एग्रीकल्चर. सेकंडली, द Cornwallis is going one step ahead. He is saying कि जमींदार doesn't have law and order also. वो मैंने पूरा बना दिया है. तो अब don't take care of law and order locally, we'll take care of it. जमींदार के और पर काट दिए. And then the next thing that will come is permanent settlement. तो जमींदारी सिस्टम, जमींदार का जो कैरेक्टर है, that character has been extremely important in India for thousands of years. अब उसको किसी नाम से भी कहो. If you go to the Delhi Sultanate, we call Rai, Rana, Rawat, etc. Then Delhi sultans tried to fight with him. They could not. So much so that ultimate Sultanate ended. Zamindars remained. When Akbar Badshah के भी could see कि भाई this is not doable, इनको दुश्मन की बना दोस्त बना देते हैं, benefit us. Zamindars were recruited as the agents of the state, but they still continued to have the local power base. State could not completely change them. State had no power at that time to remove zamindar. Zamindar को टैक्स नहीं देता है, तो state क्या करेगी? State will put him in jail, so that somebody in the family will take it parole. But state cannot take sin zamindari. But now Cornwallis will do that. तो पहली बार Cornwallis जो fundamental change लाता है is to disrupt entire zamindari structure that existed in India for thousands of years. If not thousand, let us say at least उसके पहले कुछ सालों तक था ही. One major change was brought by Khurshid Quli Khan, where he dispensed with some zamindars, created big zamindaris, but that also had created a kind of consolidated this version of the old system. Again, now the changes start happening. But anyway, my point here, zamindars' power is going away. That is my main point. And then there is urbanization of services, exclusion of Indians. So all high Indian officials were dismissed, and all posts worth more than £500 per year were reserved for Europeans. All these reforms mark the beginning of civil service. The traditional myth of law-abiding, incorruptible British rule in India starts from the era of Cornwallis. The steel frame of the civil service started to emerge in this era, and it was Europeanized. So when Hastings went back, at that time, huge corruption, huge disorganization, people did not know whether Angrez रहेंगे, चले जाएंगे. It was Cornwallis who brought a stability to rule. People knew British नहीं जा रहे कहीं, ये रुकेंगे. And in his reform, judicial, administrative, and revenue, ये तीन सबसे major reforms है. Judicial we have seen, administrative also we just saw. Equal substantive basis, but the point is that he created that system which is steel frame at the cost of rights of Indians. Indians are completely relegated to the inferior position in system which continued for decades hereafter. We have the international movement that emerged in 1850s, 60s, gradually asking for Indians' right to become ICS officers. So age of writing exam, the syllabus, द प्लेस वेयर एग्जाम वुड टेक प्लेस, पूरे जो सिविल सर्विस रिफॉर्म्स की बात होती है कांग्रेस मूवमेंट में, उसकी जो शुरुआत प्रॉब्लम की कहाँ होती है, यहाँ पे होती है। हाँ, लेट्स गो टू द नेक्स्ट पॉइंट, दैट इज जमींदारी सिस्टम। Why was this system required? It has got two types of backgrounds. One is the economic logic of it, the material base, and second is the role of ideology. तो मैं दोनों देखना है, what are the reasons for which this was brought. First is economic background, and that we already know that earlier efforts did not succeed. There was problem. He was a problem solver. So the attempt to maximize revenue found manifestation in various revenue experiments of foreign hustings, like 1 year, then quinquennial, 5 साल का, दोबारा 1 साल का, सब कुछ फेल गए. All of them were unsuccessful. Under the farming system, landowners had no incentive to augment production, as the revenue farmers were only interested in short-term appropriation. When you go for bidding, when you say कि भाई आपको 2 साल के लिए मिला, 1 साल के लिए मिला है, आप निकल बाकी आप रखो, तो you have no reason to invest in irrigation, in extension, in land quality, no reason to support the farmers. So it went to loss. Such a situation was not conducive for any development. The condition of the peasants became deplorable. After his arrival in India, Cornwallis found agriculture and trade decaying, Zamindars and riots sinking into poverty, and moneylenders the only flourishing class in the community. Now, I want to tell you why were British so much keen to ensure a good revenue supply. What do you think? क्यों चाहिए इतना revenue? I mean, why do they want to create settlements? Why do they want to settle revenue so much? Because it is the revenue from which they get surplus, which they invest to buy Indian commodities, and from that they sell outside in the world and earn profit. तो अगर रेवेन्यू इस साल कम आ गया, बाहर माल तो बेचना है ही उनको, डिमांड तो ऑलरेडी है, डिमांड ऑलरेडी बुक्ड भी है, you have to supply. But if you don't have enough local revenue and you still have to buy the goods and sell outside, मतलब you have to bring money from somewhere else, that is a loss to the company. कंपनी समझती है कि अपने पैसे से खरीदना पड़े तो नुकसान हो रहा है हमारा, ठीक है? तो that is the whole idea, that they wanted to settle all the balance of trade on account of Indian revenues. So if agriculture is not doing well, it doesn't mean only revenue is gone. It means the trade of Angrez is also suffering. And many of the trade commodities came from agriculture, like cotton and silk. वो भी काम नहीं करेंगे फिर तो. The company is not interested in agriculture for the sake of agriculture. It is just the means. The idea is trade, balance of trade. This figure created instability in the company's revenues at a time when the British were hard pressed for money. Thus, the company's governance in India was looking for a stable income, which was required to maintain the trade surplus. Right? And it is at this juncture Cornwallis came. He was expected to end the uncertainty surrounding revenue collection. He himself belonged to a feudal class of landed magnates in Britain and therefore had some knowledge of the land and agriculture. Now, I want to add two more points for your understanding, that he himself belonged to the landed class. So he was himself a zamindar, but in British context. And when he came to India, he was naturally predisposed to favor Indian zamindars because उनकी भाषा समझता था, दुख दर्द बांटता था. So his personal idea, because before Cornwallis came, there's a debate, zamindars or people, with whom we should go. Then he sided with zamindar argument because of his background. One thing. The second thing, he is not only zamindar, he's not a landlord, he's actually lord. He's an aristocrat. This point समझने के लिए important, because इसके पहले जो सारे लोग आए हैं, वो सारे कौन है? Social climbers. They come from the middle class, lower class, and then they make fortune through the dint of their merit and audacity and go back. अब जाके, when the government has appointed an aristocrat, and he then prefers the English people over Indians, and even within English, he prefers certain class of English people, not all. For example, इंग्लैंड में कानून है लॉ ऑफ प्राइमोजेनिचर. मतलब क्या होता है? इफ यू पर्सन इज लॉर्ड या बैरन या ड्यूक या समथिंग, एंड ही हैज स्टेट एंड ही हैज रैंक एंड ऑनर इन द कोर्ट, तो अगर उसके 3 बेटे हो गए, तो क्या होने, प्रॉपर्टी शुड बी डिवाइडेड इन 3 पार्ट्स ना. In law of primogeniture, the entire estate एंड इंटायर टाइटल लॉर्ड का बेटा लॉर्ड बस एक पहला होगा और कुछ नहीं होगा। पहला जब मर जाए तो सेकंड को मिलेगा, अगर नहीं मरा वो पहले को बेटा हो गया तो उसको जाएगा। ओनली वन पर्सन विल गेट, प्रॉपर्टी विल नॉट बी डिवाइडेड, अदर पीपल विल नॉट हैव प्रॉपर्टी, they will not have rank, they will not have title. So what do? They come from the elite families, they are aristocrat के बच्चे हैं। So पहले से ही उनको पता था हमें कुछ मिलना जुलना है नहीं, बड़ा भाई हमारा है, but we still have to make career, so where we should go? Most important avenue for them was army, British military। यहाँ पे बड़े बड़े अफसर जनरल्स जो होते थे, they used to come from aristocratic class, उनके एंट्री तेरे वहीं पे ऊपर हो जाते थे, and well trained people। If not, then you go to church, you become a big father, the high level clergy। तो ये एवेन्यू होते थे ट्रेडिशनली। व्हेन कंपनी स्टार्टेड, कंपनी इंसिस्टेड विद द गवर्नमेंट टू एनफोर्स दिस प्राइमोजेनिचर। व्हाई? बिकॉज वी वांट सप्लाई ऑफ दैट क्लास ऑफ पीपल इनटू गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया। सो ऑल तो नहीं कहूंगा, बट लॉट्स ऑफ ऑफिसर्स एट हाई एचेलेंस इन द ब्रिटिश कंपनी इन इंडिया, नथिंग बट लॉर्ड्स एंड बैरन्स के दूसरे तीसरे बेटे, जिनका अपने देश में कुछ समझाना था नहीं, but they came from that elite class, they brought the elite culture, that process whereby aristocrats in England are now coming and controlling the company from within. So it is internal aristocratic revolution that starts happening in 1790s। इसके 20 साल पहले क्या हो रहा है? नवाब कल्चर, छोटे लोग जाते अमीरों के आते, बगल में कोठी खरीदते, करप्शन करते। ये नहीं चाहिए। अब एरिस्टोक्रेट्स ने कहा एरिस्टोक्रेट स्ट्राइक बैक, हम कंपनी हथिया लेंगे अंदर से, कर लिया उन्होंने। So with these two acts of Regulating Act and Pitt's India Act, and when they sent Cornwallis, corruption बोल बोल के इन लोगों ने सारे पावर अपने हाथ में ले ली। So company internally was hijacked by aristocratic class in England because and during the arrival of Cornwallis। So there is a historian called Lakshmi Subramaniam. She says it was an aristocratic revolution that occurred inside a company in 1790s। And once the class change takes place within the company, its perspective also changes। What the policies, how to करो। अभी racial angle अब आएगा धीरे धीरे। These people will not be so much enthused कि हमें इंडियन में जाना है, इंडियन भाषा सीखनी है, लर्न पर्शियन एंड संस्कृत। ना ना, वी आवर कल्चर इज ग्रेट, आपका क्या है, आप कौन हो। तो ग्रेजुअली द चेंज विल स्टार्ट अवे इनटू द नेक्स्ट फेज, हम देखेंगे उसके बाद में। बट एनीवे, so first of all, this is the economic background, why the change took place। I just told you informally a social background also, but I don't think that point is that important to be written in the answer. You can add as one single line कि भाई aristocratic revolution happened in the company as per historian Lakshmi Subramaniam। Social context, and then we have another important context, that is ideological context। यहाँ पे 3-4 नाम आते हैं, like Henry Portello, you have Alexander Dow, Thomas Law, etc. But we don't need to know, or Quincy, uh, Francois Quincy, they're all thinkers, but we don't need to know those names। हमें simple idea क्या है कि what was the ideological context in which these ideas came, कि how to settle the जमींदारी सिस्टम। तो उसमें जो बेसिक आइडिया वो है फिजियोक्रेट्स। फिजियोक्रेसी was a school of economy which was standing against mercantilism। So in Europe at that time, the main idea is mercantilism, जिसमें trade is important। The trade surplus brings you silver and gold, precious metal, and therefore you are rich। So trade based understanding जो है वो इसमें है, किसमें? mercantilism में। Physiocrats is an alternative viewpoint of economy who are fighting against mercantilist people। They don't consider trade as important। They say trade से कोई value create नहीं होती है। ट्रेड में क्या है? It is just a change of hands। Good passes from one hand to other hand and you earn some profit। That profit is not actual value creation। Value is not created at the exchange point of sale। इट इज एक्चुअल वैल्यू कम्स फ्रॉम द लैंड. जमीन के अंदर से जो आता है वो नया बनता है, बाकी सब यहाँ से एक्सचेंज ही हो रहा है. नया क्या एक्सचेंज? यू आर नॉट एडिंग टू द न्यू वेल्थ. हाउ डू यू एड टू वेल्थ? एग्रीकल्चर. दैट इज देयर व्यू पॉइंट. इट इज ऑल बिफोर इंडस्ट्रियल रिवॉल्यूशन, बाय द वे, समझो उसको. So you have mercantilism gave primacy to the accumulation of gold through commercial activity, और then the balance of trade was very important. They thought that point of sale पे value create होती है, but physiocrats emphasized agricultural production as a source of national wealth. So they opposed mercantilism because it is just changing the hand and it is not creating any value. ये पहली बात. तो कंपनी जो ओरिजिनली आती है, it comes in mercantilist mindset, but when it goes in 1790s for reforming revenue settlement, it goes with the mindset of physiocracy and not mercantilism. The second point is the mercantilism tried to create a monopoly over trade. वो तो हमें देखा है, even using violence if required. While physiocrats were strongly opposed to all kinds of monopolies as well as feudal privileges. उनके मन में सिंपल ये था physiocrats में, lots of physiocrats were French, by the way. What they thought is that फ्रांस में जो बुरी अवस्था है 1770s 1780s, that is before French Revolution, in ancient regime, वो बुरी अवस्था किसकी वजह से? Because they are feudal and backward, and that is to be avoided. So the other in the othering जो किया है फिजियोक्रेट ने, वो किया है कि प्री रिवोल्यूशन फ्रांस, वहाँ की जो दिक्कत है उनको अवॉइड कैसे करें. So they created the theory out of that, and that was then imported into India. So physiocrats believed in the institution of private property, a program for strengthening property right in land figured prominently in physiocratic prescriptions. उनका सिंपल था कि भाई फ्रांस में there was no private property, it was undermined by the ancient regime, इसलिए उनका नुकसान हो रहा है, उनके बजट खराब हो रहे हैं, उनका debt ridden state बन गया है, they can't run. So wherever you want to have profit, you want to have proper profit motive and incentive that comes only with private property. Property rates को absolute बनाओ, ये बहुत जरूरी. So what these people said कि भाई Bengal is like ancient regime and that should not happen. So agriculture को improve करना is the solution. When Hastings come, his solution was to improve trade, in which he was partly successful. But now he's focusing these people are saying agriculture को improve करो. और किसको improve कैसे करो? By ensuring permanent property rights in agriculture. And why it is not done? Because you are going for हर 2 साल में आप कह रहे हो कि auction करो, हर 1 साल में auction करो. So this farming of the agriculture, of giving tax rights to highest bidders, that does not create a very stable property regime. उसको बंद करो. So what we need to go for is permanent settlement. So permanent settlement का basic fundamental idea क्या है? To create private property in the land. That is the fundamental. And why do we need private property? Because then you have investment and improvement and everything. So अब if you want to go for a permanent settlement, but ठीक है, आप किसके साथ करोगे? Whom will we settle with? जमींदार के तो we have यहाँ पे the beginning of the confusion. Next question, the logical question of physiocrats is, ठीक है, permanent settlement करेंगे किसके साथ? We have multiple options. So here we have prevailing system in India that was so confusing. During Mughal period, the private individual ownership was not fully established. Different contenders claimed different parts of production. So you have, for example, state. Some people thought in British bureaucracy, state is the sovereign power, the ruler, the bhupati, mahipati, and therefore state is the owner of all land, not the people. State अगर owner of land है, Mughal state अगर landowner था, we are the inheritors of Mughal, so we own all the land. तो जमींदार कौन है? He is just our agent. And this was the viewpoint of majority of company servant, that state is the owner. And it was influenced by the writing of Bernier. You know Bernier had traveled to India, Francois Bernier. तो वो जाके जब गया था वापस फ्रांस, तो उसने लिखा था, in India there is no private property, all land is owned by the Mughal Badshah, and that influenced their understanding. But Bernier is not the first one. You go back thousands of years, go to Megasthenes, वही लिख रहा है, government or state owns all the land. So the concept of oriental despotism, that Raja is despotic, he controls everything, doesn't allow surplus to become productive, appropriates all the surplus, that comes from basic idea कि there is no private property. Property अगर आएगी तो डिस्पोटिज्म नहीं रहेगा। डिस्पोटिक कौन है? जिसके पास आर्बिट्ररी पावर्स है, वो कौन? तो जमींदार, उसको हटाओ। So the people who believed that state is the owner of all land, they are the believer in the despotism वाली theory, और उनकी शुरुआत बहुत, तो they are majority in company. The second thing are the zamindar, the intermediary landlord. Some people think कि ना ना, state का अधिकार क्या है? To just get the tax revenue. State is not the owner of land. Owner of land कौन है? जमींदार है। अब यहाँ पे भी लाइक फ्रांसिस फ्रांसिस जो कि हास्टिंग के खिलाफ था, तो फ्रांसिस थॉट कि भाई जमींदार इज द एक्चुअल ओनर in Indian tradition, and therefore, if we go for settle permanently with somebody, it has to be zamindar. He says कि भाई even when Bengal was passed from the hands of Mughal into Nawabs, at that time also zamindari inherited rights continue. तो यहाँ पे inheritance जमींदार के पास होता है, zamindar is the actual owner. And then some people say no, we have the peasant. Peasant peasant is the जमींदार का काम क्या है? टैक्स उठा के स्टेट को देना, बट एक्चुअल ओनर कौन है? तो peasant, tiller of the land is the actual owner. He can sell the land, he can buy the land, is the actual owner. And some people went different with अंदर ये सब डिबेट्स है कंपनी के अंदर before Congolese came to India. The fourth category was the community, the panchayat. Whenever a peasant sells a land to other peasant, he refers to panchayat कि मैं ये कर रहा हूँ, आपकी परमिशन है क्या? Who is community panchayat giving permission? मतलब they own the land. Even the Raja, the king, when he gives land grant, or a Mughal Badshah, when he gives land grant, idrar and hinam वगैरह, so he also refers to local panchayat कि भाई मैंने land दिया है. It means the technical legal authority is panchayat, neither king nor people. So we had these four contenders, and debate चलता रहा. A company is very experimental. Is in this case, at this juncture in 1790s, they decide कि ना, it is zamindar. Why? Because physiocrats, because Congolese himself, because they found it suitable. अगर उनके पास ताकत होती तो सबको वो खारिज कर दे, कहते बस स्टेट ही पावरफुल है, सब जमीन हमारी है, कर नहीं पाते. So when they chose zamindar, it became permanent settlement. Afterwards, after a few decades, they found it problematic. So they chose peasant. In South India, it became रैयतवाड़ी in South India. And when they chose after a few decades of that कि नहीं ये भी काम नहीं कर रहा, we go to महलवाड़ी. तो ये तो बात रैयतवाड़ी महलवाड़ी में बात बाद में करेंगे. Right now we are focusing on only permanent settlement. Here the idea is zamindar. So they arrived at a conclusion कि we have to do this only with zamindar, और प्रॉपर्टी जमींदारी की है. अब इसमें प्रॉब्लम कहाँ पे आता है? So these two things are actually self contradictory. On one hand, जमींदार के पास आ रहा है, क्यों? बिकॉज जमींदार इज ए ट्रेडिशनल लैंड ओनर, सदियों का वही है. सो ट्रेडिशनल राइट हैज टू बी रिस्पेक्टेड बाय गोइंग विद द डील विद जमींदार. On the other hand, what you want to do is to create absolute private property. If you do that, then the land will be sold and purchased. जमींदारी चली जाएगी, ओरिजिनल पुराने फैमिलीज कंट्रोल में नहीं रहेंगे. सो इन दोनों में आपस में टसल है, एंड पीपल बिलीव कि ना कोई दिक्कत नहीं है, जमींदार आर स्ट्रॉन्ग इनफ, अगर नहीं कर दिखा जाएगा. So by creating two things, on one hand going with the ancient inheritance of zamindar, and on the other hand insisting of creation of full private property, these two are at cross. So they start with zamindars. Within a few years, zamindars start selling the lands, or zamindars land had to be auctioned. वो बाद में होगा, within few years. ठीक है. So what are the features of zamindari system? Region कहाँ पे हुआ है ये? The pink one. This is Zamindari region. You have Bengal, Bihar, Odisha primarily. If you look at the area collectively, it is around 19% of British India, 19%. If you go to रैयतवाड़ी, जो कि लाइट ग्रीन है, और इधर बाकी रीजन्स में, तो यहाँ पे you have around 51% of British India. If you go to महलवाड़ी, dark green, it is around 30%. So zamindari actually is lesser if you go area wise. But it is more important because of two things, one real and one jovial. Real क्या है? It is the first जहाँ से काम शुरू होता है. जो भी, और दूसरा क्या है, कलकत्ता वाज द कैपिटल, व्हाटएवर वाज हैपनिंग अराउंड कलकत्ता इज मोर इम्पोर्टेंट. जोवियल क्या है, वी हैव लॉट्स ऑफ बंगाल हिस्टोरियंस टुडे, व्हाट वी कैन डू, so they insist on studying Bengal more than other parts. But whatever be the reason, we study zamindari in more detail, Rayatwadi, Malawadi in less details. So we have zamindari in this region. Second is, इसके साथ with zamindar was considered as the original hereditary owners of the land, and they were required to collect revenue from the rayats as agents of the company. So the moment you give premium to zamindar as the absolute owner, इसका consequence क्या है, रैयत, the common people are not the owner. So रातों रात एक फरमान निकाला, इस पूरी जनता की कोई जमीन नहीं है यहाँ पे, सब जमीन जमींदार की है. So all people were dispossessed of their share in the land right. So the free peasants were converted into tenants at will. जमींदार जब चाहे उनको रखे, जब चाहे निकाल दे. So therefore the traditional rights of the rayats on the land were completely abolished. The community land also was placed under zamindari control, barren land, irrigation, pasture, forest land, etc. So zamindars were given upper hand, and company decided purposefully not to intervene between zamindar and rayat. So much so that in 1799, after a few years, they brought a law called as Haptam Law. Haptam Law. And as per this Haptam Law, zamindars were empowered to evict the peasants from the land, even without any judicial procedure. The company has decided zamindar is landowner, peasant has no authority. Company will not intervene in their relation, rather will empower zamindar as much as we can, so that he has complete power to do whatever he wants to do with the peasants. क्यों? Because zamindar अपना काम कर पाए. अपना काम क्या कर पाए? Tax collection. उसके बीच में नहीं आता. तो इवन हप्तम लॉ बाय लॉर्ड वेलेस्ली के जमाने में आता है. तो state decided not to intervene between the two. Then the land was now made a private property and transferable commodity. इसके पीछे भी कॉन्टेक्स्ट क्या है लैंड का, वो है सनसेट लॉ. Mandated that if a zamindar failed to pay the stipulated amount by sunset of the due date, his land was seized and zamindari rights were auctioned. तो जमींदार के मन में खौफ था, पूरा खौफ. उसकी कहानियां, कविताएं आपको आज भी मिलेंगी कि भाई शाम को जमींदार के आदमी बैलगाड़ी पे बैठ के, हाथी पे बैठ के, घोड़े पे बैठ के पैसा लाद के जा रहे, कलकत्ता पहुंचना है, कलकत्ता पहुंचना है. क्यों? आज का सूर्यास्त होते ही, टुडे सनसेट इज द डेडलाइन. उसके बाद अगर हम पूरा टैक्स देंगे, कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ेगा, वो हमारी जमींदारी चली गई. तो दे हैड स्पेसिफिक डेट अनाउंस्ड एवरी ईयर, कैलेंडर डेट. उस शाम के सूरज ढलने तक हमें टैक्स आना चाहिए, वरना जमींदार की पूरी एंटायर जमींदार विल बी ऑक्शन, नीलामी हो जाएगी. एक सेकंड का भी नहीं चलेगा. And that was actually rigorously implemented. So lots of zamindar came under huge stress because of that. My point is that land was now made a private property and a transferable commodity. Why? Because if zamindar fails to furnish the revenue to the government on specified date, तो उसकी जमींदारी खरीद के नहीं, हथिया के be sold in the market. So somebody has to be there to purchase also. That is possible only in a land market. So land is a commodity now, commodification of land. So those people who have more money will be interested in investing in land also to create land asset. That is the very idea of physiocratic school. Create absolute property in land. But is this not a joke? Is there no internal contradiction here? Zamindar has the absolute property in land insofar as he paying the tax. टैक्स देना एक दिन के लिए रोक दो, एक दिन का डिले कर दो, आपके सारे हक गायब हो गए. तो हु इज एक्चुअल जमींदार? The super zamindar is the state itself, the company itself. So absolute land property of zamindar is only in the context of raiyat, not actual. But anyway, sunset law and rate of revenue. Tax was fixed on the base of 1992, and then जितना भी आप कलेक्ट करोगे, 10/11 will go to the company and 1/11 will remain with the जमींदार. अब ये थोड़ा सा वेरी हाई लेवल. इसमें क्या किया इन लोगों ने? They did two things. Firstly, this base was considered because it was a good year, तो हायर असेसमेंट वाज देयर, जितना निकलता है उससे अधिक। एंड सेकंडली जो अधिक वाला नंबर है उसमें भी मैक्सिमम प्रपोर्शन वाज केप्ट बाय द कंपनी एंड ओनली 1/11 वाज गिवन टू जमींदार। ये समझो, अगर आपका 100 का प्रोडक्शन है, ऑफ दैट लेट अस से 22 इज द टैक्स, तो उसमें से स्टेट विल गेट 20 एंड 2 विल गो टू जमींदार एंड स्टेट peasant will keep 88. Why? Because the expectation was that now you have created landed property, you have created Zamindar's rights, you have fixed. What was fixed? This 20 was fixed. मतलब ये 22 फिक्स हो गए। अब इसके बाद फ्यूचर में जब भी जमींदार इन्वेस्ट करेगा और 100 के समझो यहाँ पे 1000 हो गए, 10th टाइम 10th फोल्ड इंक्रीज, उसके बाद 22 के क्या होंगे, 20 के क्या होंगे, 20 रहेंगे। दैट इज परमल सेटलमेंट, कि जो कुछ फ्यूचर इंक्रीज होगा वो सारा यहाँ पे जाएगा। तो अगर ये 220 होते हैं तो 20 यहाँ पे जाएंगे तो ये होंगे 200। So all the future increase will go into the pocket of zamindar. That is the actual incentive that states. Permanent settlement matlab this 20 is fixed permanently. Whatever increase may happen in future is for zamindar to keep. हम इसमें नहीं जाना, बस हमेशा सदियों के लिए permanently. That is the whole idea of permanent settlement. इसका मतलब क्या है, 20 तो फिक्स हो गया। अब चूंकि हमें हर साल जाके चेक नहीं करना है, सो विल नॉट कम एंड असेस कि इस साल कितना उत्पाद है, हमें नहीं देखना। हमारे बड़ी तो आप रखो, हमें 20 दे दो बस। What we want is stable and fixed income every year. One thing. And secondly, the state doesn't have to go and revenue check और कुछ नहीं करना है, काम बच गया, करप्शन कम हो गया एंड इंसेंटिव क्रिएट हो गया यहाँ पे। एंड thirdly, because this number was gonna not change at all in future, इसलिए इनिशियली उन्होंने बहुत हाई कर कर दिया उसको शुरू से ही, कि भाई 5-10 साल में तो घटना ही है बहुत ज़्यादा प्रोपोर्शन में वो। So they kept the number at the initial level so high, high base and high proportion. But the problem that occurred because of that कि वो शुरू में ही जमींदार उसको पे नहीं कर पाए 2-4 साल में। सबकी लगभग 30 to 50% of जमींदारीज were auctioned because the initial numbers were too high. तो आधे जमींदार की जमीनें चली गई। और ये ऑक्शन डिक्शन बहुत नई चीज है, ये दिस थिंग वाज नेवर देयर इन मुगल एरा। ब्रिटिश क्लेम कि वी आर ट्राइंग टू ब्रिंग द सिस्टम व्हिच इज ट्रेडिशनल टू मुगल एम्पायर, ये इनकी परंपरा है, हम आगे ले जा रहे हैं, कुछ नहीं थी परंपरा। ब्रिटिश के पहले मुगल्स यूज्ड टू, अगर जमीन, जैसे मैंने कहा, इफ यू डोंट पे टैक्स आई पुट इन जेल, आई विल नॉट टेक यूज। आई हैड ब्रिटिश द मुगल एम्पायर हैड नो राइट टू कॉन्फिस्केट जमींदारी, खुद नहीं कर सकता, बादशाह अकबर बादशाह नहीं कर सकता था। तो इट इज अ चेंज सिस्टम। सो व्हाट वेर द ओवरऑल एक्सपेक्टेशंस? फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल, इकोनॉमिक मोटिव ऑफ द कंपनी क्या है? फिक्स, स्टेबल एंड सिक्योर इनकम फॉर द स्टेट। भले अकाल आए, फेमाइन आए ना आए, हमें फर्क नहीं पड़ता। तुम्हें फायदा रखना है रखो, नुकसान जाओ हमें हमारा 20 दे दो भाई, फिक्स्ड। सेकंड, द मैजिक टच ऑफ प्रॉपर्टी, प्रॉपर्टी प्लस परमानेंट सेटलमेंट। तो आपके पैसे हैं और योर फिक्स्ड रेवेन्यू ऑफ गवर्नमेंट इज फिक्स्ड, सो प्रोग्रेसिव जमींदार विल कम, दे विल इन्वेस्ट इन एग्रीकल्चर, विल इंप्रूव द प्रोडक्शन, इट विल बूस्ट द ट्रेड। तो फायदा किसका? जमींदार का है। इंप्रूवमेंट इन प्रोडक्टिविटी जमींदार का फायदा है। बूस्ट द ट्रेड, ट्रेड फायदा कंपनी का है, क्योंकि इफ यू हैव मोर गुड्स, यू सेल मोर इन द मार्केट, यू कैन टैक्स इट। बट मोर इंक्रीज इन द लैंड प्रोडक्शन विल नॉट इंक्रीज द रेवेन्यू। रेवेन्यू इज फिक्स्ड, 20 पे अटका हुआ है वो, but more goods will come in the market, more cotton, more silk, for example, it helps the company indirectly. So he was supposed to be a landlord entrepreneur, improving landlord. That was the company's expectation. वैसे I was reading about it, I was confused all the time, ऐसे कैसे 20 पे रोक दिया कंपनी ने आपको? But if you see very clearly, ये सब छलावा टाइप है। In reality, company has a scope to increase land revenue in a different way. कैसे? समझो आप लैंड रेवेन्यू नहीं देते हो, यू फॉल्टर अंडर सनसेट लॉ, आई टेक योर एस्टेट, आई वांट टू पुट इट ऑन सेल फॉर ऑक्शन, बट बिफोर समबडी टेक्स, जैसे आप आके ऑक्शन करोगे, ले लोगे बिड करके, बीच में 2 साल चले गए, तो 2 साल द लैंड इज विद द कंपनी, तो 2 साल कंपनी गेट्स रेवेन्यू डायरेक्टली। दैट इज वन थिंग। सेकेंडली, नॉट ओनली दैट, लॉट्स ऑफ लैंड वॉज अ कम्युनिटी लैंड। मतलब क्या है, आपके मिडोज है, पास्चर लैंड, सैक्रेड ग्रोव, देन इरिगेशन लैंड, खाली पड़ी हुई लैंड जहाँ पे यात्रा भरती है। तो ये सारे जो कॉमन लैंड जो थे, कम्युनिटी लैंड, दे वेर ऑल टैक्स फ्री लैंड। उस पे किसकी किसी की जमीन नहीं है, समाज की जमीन है, कम्युनिटी प्रॉपर्टी। So this community property which sustain our culture, it sustain our villages, it sustain the people who don't have land, जो कि चरवाहा है, जो कि herders है, all these people, all the style of life required common lands for society, all of them were gradually converted into tax paying land. क्यों? जमींदार की जमीन होगी सारी वो, जमींदार से इंसेंटिव, ही विल ब्रिंग समबडी कि इसको बनाओ, खेती कर दो, मुझे पैसा चाहिए, टैक्स भरना, मुझे फायदा चाहिए। So conversion of commons into absolute private property, that was also another means. एंड तीसरी बात क्या है जो सबसे मुझे खलती है कई बार, वो है कि इन मुगल एरा और इन प्री ब्रिटिश एरा द स्टेट यूज्ड टू गिव लैंड ग्रांट्स, टैक्स फ्री लैंड ग्रांट्स। इन ब्रिटिश टाइम ऑल्सो मिल्क, इदरार, इनाम है आपके पास, सदर था उसका पे। तो स्टोरीज ऑफ अब्दुल नबी ऑल्सो, राइट, अकबर बादशाह के जमाने में उसको हटा दिया था, करप्शन कर रहा था इसलिए। तो दिस यू हैव पंडित, यू हैव मौलवी, दे यूज्ड टू गेट टैक्स फ्री विलेजेस ताकि दे कैन सस्टेन द स्कॉलरशिप, यू हैव टेम्पल्स के लैंड्स। तो दिस टैक्स फ्री बट एग्रीकल्चरल लैंड, जहाँ पे खेती हो रही है, प्रोडक्शन आ रहा है, बट टैक्स डजंट गो टू द स्टेट, इट गोज टू दैट एंटिटी, आइदर अ पंडित और अ मौलवी और मदरसा और स्कूल और यूनिवर्सिटी और टेम्पल। ये जो है, ये टैक्स फ्री लैंड जमींदार के पास नहीं है। दिस लैंड वाज यूसप्ड बाय द कंपनी इन नेक्स्ट 20, 30, 40 ईयर्स, ग्रेजुअली धीरे धीरे करके नए नए रूल्स लाके ये सारे जमीन को उन्हें टैक्स वाला लैंड कर दिया, नो टैक्स। तो द एंटायर इकोसिस्टम ऑफ कल्चर एंड एजुकेशन which was surviving on that tax free land, उस सबको डिसमेंटल कर दिया कंपनी ने। क्यों? Because this is fixed at 20, asked me to increase my proportion from where I can increase, let me convert tax to land in tax land, and that was such a huge proportion, we have the numbers from 1790s to 1840s, in 50 साल में कंपनी का शेयर रेवेन्यू increased by 50%. Why? Only because they converted tax free land into tax land. 50% rise, बहुत बात है, at 1% every year. At that time, before industrial revolution, it's a huge number, huge number. So ये लोग अकलमंद लोग हैं, बट हम ये पढ़ते नहीं है। ठीक है, it has a huge the collapse of traditional education system is also partly because of this. But anyway, what can we do? This understanding that you earn is after lots of close reading, but UBSC might not ask a question on this part. We just spoke for last 5 minutes. Let us come back. Second part is administrative motive. What was the company's intention from administrative point of view? Permanent settlement directly with zamindar without involving government officers. So company's officers would be free from revenue collection duties. They could be appointed for other duties. So by administrative burden nahi rahega. It is easy to collect revenue from a few hundred zamindars than from lakhs of peasants. कौन हर दुकान गांव में जाके काम करेगा? नहीं करना काम हमें. And it will check the corruption because there is no discretion involved. Fees तो fixed है भाई. If you have to go and every year assess कितना है, तो corruption वो भी नहीं होगा. So these are the administrative intentions of the company. हमें देखना है कि ये सब कितना खरा हुआ. खरा कुछ नहीं हुआ अलग बात है. तो then you go for political motives. Zamindars, they're supposed to be a friendly class. Get a political motive. And company would not be the target of popular reaction because zamindars were collecting revenue. जमींदार ही सरकार का चेहरा है जनता के सामने, सरकार तो जमींदार के पीछे छुपी हुई है। हमारा एनिमी कौन है जो हमसे पैसे ले रहा है? कौन ले? जमींदार ले रहा है। एंड जमींदार्स would also immensely benefit because amount of land revenue paid by them was fixed till perpetuity. जमींदार्स were expected only to collect the bid amount from peasants. तो इसमें ये था, एक्सपेक्टेशन ये था that अगर वो 100 है प्रोडक्शन, 22 are collected, 20 go to state and 2 go to zamindar. So actually the zamindar was supposed to get 22 only, not 25 or 30 or 40. है ना? But what zamindar would do? Would he stop at 22? Obviously he would not. The state is giving carte blanche. ब्लैंक चेक दिया स्टेट ने कि जो चाहे करो, विल नॉट इंटरवीन, आप उसको रखना है जमीन पे, हटाना जमीन से, टेनेंट एट विल, इट इज योर ड्यूटी, हमें नहीं फर्क, हमें बस अपने बीस चाहिए। द मोमेंट जमींदार गेट्स कार्टे ब्लांचे, ही विल नॉट स्टॉप एट 22, ही विल मेक इट 40 45, डायरेक्टली इनडायरेक्टली मेरे घर पे मजदूरी कर, मेरे कपड़े दो, मेरे दूध, गाय को दूध बेच के आ जा, जो कुछ है। तो दिस एग्जैक्शंस, लीगल इलीगल, इंक्रीज, एंड दे इंक्रीज अ लॉट, बट दैट वाज नॉट, कंपनी की एक्सपेक्टेशन क्या है, ऐसे कुछ नहीं करेंगे। Zamindars were expected to take care of welfare of peasants as fulfillment of their interest was dependent on the peasants. तो ये 100 का जब 1000 होगा, तब 2 का 200 होगा। सो जमींदार का इंटरेस्ट है to help peasants go from 100 to 1000, to spend some money, invest in improvement, doing some structures and irrigation करो, वहाँ पे टेक्नोलॉजी लाओ, सपोर्ट करो, जो कुछ करो, पेजेंट मरना जाए, फैमिली दिक्कत मदद करो। जमींदार हैड बीन डूइंग दैट फॉर सेंचुरीज, हेल्पिंग peasants, हेल्पिंग इरिगेशन, हेल्पिंग लोकल ऑर्डर, सारे अधिकार तो हमने छीन लिया, एंड वी एक्सपेक्ट टू डू दैट। वो तब करेगा ना जब जमींदार होगा। ये जमींदार इज रिमूव्ड, सम अदर पर्सन कम्स एज जमींदार हु इज नॉट अ विलेज पर्सन, हु इज कमिंग फ्रॉम सिटी, इसका कोई ताल्लुक ही नहीं है वहां से, वो बस पैसे के लिए आया है, ही वुड नॉट बी इंटरेस्टेड इन एनी लोकल अफेयर। तो ट्रेडिशनल बॉन्ड बिटवीन जमींदार एंड पीपल इज लॉस्ट, पीपल आर एट द मर्सी ऑफ व्हाट, ऑफ द गॉड। जमींदार इज नॉट देयर्स, गवर्नमेंट इज नॉट देयर्स, लोग मरते रहे, मरते गए, मरते गए। So what was the outcome? Although I have already hinted at it, let us see the outcome. Firstly, for the government, we'll see outcome in three parts: for government, for zamindars, and for peasants. Some points would be repeated because obviously they are the same things, but sometimes questions are only on zamindar or only on peasant, so we should be able to write the point. मैं कुछ point repeat करे तीनों section में, ठीक है? First thing is for the government. If the state secured a stable and fixed income from the people, so at least as far as that intention is concerned, it is a partial success. In case of zamindar, did not pay the revenue, the land of zamindar was sold, and government became free from problem of fixing of the revenue every year. तो ना झंझट है, ना tax evasion, ना corruption, कुछ नहीं. Absolute land property created in land market in Bengal. A new market was created. That was also the intention. Here also they succeeded. Third thing, instead of progressive zamindars, there were absent zamindars. यहाँ पे company's intention failed. Intention failed. कैसे? So against expectation, zamindars did not take interest in investing in agriculture. They were not the improving lot. They did not invest. They did not become entrepreneur. Why they not? Why they did not? There was no flow of capital from urban to rural areas. There was no investment. Expectation ये है ना कि आप प्रॉपर्टी बनाओ तो इम्प्रूव करो ना. Rather, the reverse situation emerged whereby many zamindars turned absentee landlords. People, rather than bringing money from the city and commerce and trade and putting into agricultural improvement, कोठी बनाया. He lived in cities. He enjoyed based on the money that he got from country. तो गांव का पैसा शहर में चला गया. So absentee zamindar means the zamindar who lives in cities, who is absent from his own estate, वहाँ जाता ही नहीं है कभी. The peasants don't even know who is the zamindar. Maybe he has some farmhouse, कभी कभी जाने के लिए सैर सपाटे पे, बस उतना ही. In the long term, by making zamindars the owners of the land, the settlement created a class of loyal landlords who formed a stable set element in the state. तो ये भी है कि the state wanted to have friends in India. Zamindars became state के friend because zamindar was dependent on the state. उनका अधिकार, उनको फायदा हो रहा था. So, but this is a double-edged sword. Why is this point a double-edged sword? Because if zamindars become your friend, people become your enemy. So in the eyes of the common people, there came a point where people started to attack the state also. Because zamindar was looting them, zamindar is state ka agent. So that also, state had to pay a huge cost by way of generation of disaffection in the mind of peasantry against the state. Lost the goodwill of the millions of people. But in the short term, zamindars did emerge as the strong pillars of the state, and company experienced that in the mutiny of 1857, जहाँ पे except for Awadh and some part of North India, zamindars stood loyal to the company. तो उनका political, so their point was success. But the people went against the company, वो अलग बात. What was the outcome for zamindars? The assessment initially was quite arbitrary. We discussed that. It is very high base because it was permanent. It was the idea. So, and even while doing that, They did not take into account any fertility of soil, type of land, वो कुछ नहीं देखा उन्होंने, ऐसे ही नंबर फिक्स कर दिए। उससे क्या हुआ, जमींदार was not able to meet the dues initially for a long time. First few years, many families defaulted, and once they defaulted, the immediate effect of the settlement was harmful upon landlords who failed to collect the revenue from the peasants and so were unable to pay the fixed revenue to the fixed time at the fixed time sunset law. As a result, they lost their ownership right over the land. जैसे मैंने कहा कि almost 30 to 50% जमींदारी was sold. And once you sell it, who buys it? New people. And this is also expected by the company. नए लोग आएंगे, पैसे लगाएंगे. So you have emergence of something called as new zamindari, new class of landlords, which emerged because of the promote settlement. So, and they had commercial interest. So who are these people? नए लोग कौन है? They are the people who come from the cities. Those who are businessmen. They are not traditionally agricultural class. उनकी सदियों की पुश्तैनी परंपरा नहीं है खेती के साथ रहने की. So they don't have any interest. They just look at it as commercial. कि भाई इन्वेस्ट किया है, प्रॉफिट कमाए. That was the only viewpoint. So you have new commercial interests coming in. Most of the landlords did not take any interest in improvement of the land. The landlords became indolent and led luxurious lives, staying away in the cities. Thus, this settlement created absentee landlords. These absentee landlords, इनको कुछ करना नहीं था, they are called as distant suction pumps. शहर में रह के they will just suck the money out of countryside and enjoy. अब इसमें I want to talk about two things. Firstly, these absentee landlords जो है, they don't want to do work, but they are not able to collect the revenue required. अब जाना भी नहीं है, काम भी नहीं हो रहा है, कैसे करें? चलो किसी को किराए पे देते हैं. That is a typical mentality. You appoint an agent. So what happened? Zamindar appointed these agents, but one agent is not appointed anytime. Here 2-3 agents को टुकड़े करके तू ईस्ट में जा, तू सेंटर में, तू वेस्ट में, आप बांट के रखें ताकि आपके थ्रेट नहीं होगा. डिवाइड एंड रूल. So you appoint 3-4 agents, and those agents जो होंगे, even those agents are आलसी. What they will do? They'll appoint sub agents कि भाई तू आगे जाके कर ले. And what would sub agent do? वो sub agents जैसे पटनी बोलते हैं. So a term called patni in Bengali. You have state. Below state you have zamindar who is sitting in a city. बस शहर पे वो बैठ के मुजरा ले रहा है, जो कुछ कर रहा है, गाने सुन रहा है. देन उसके नीचे उसके आएंगे 2 एजेंट, लेट अस से पटनी 1, पटनी 2. Then Patni will have his own 2, let us 3, 4, and then ultimately you have Rayat. उसके भी नीचे क्या रैयत के नीचे होगा? लैंडलेस लेबर. उसकी तो कोई पूछता, आज तक उसे कोई पूछता नहीं है. इवन टुडे लैंडलेस लेबर उसके भी नीचे होगा. So what happened actually between Zamindar and Rayat? There was expect to direct contact, but now we have intermediary levels of Patni. So it is called Patni, then Dur Patni, Dur Patni, Dur Patni. ऐसे कभी कभी जगह तो 20 लेयर्स हो गए, 20 लेयर्स. एंड नाउ जमीन स्टेट को अपने 20 चाहिए, जमींदार को अपने 50-100 चाहिए, तो हर एक आदमी को भी अपने पैसे चाहिए, तो लूटा कौन जा रहा है? रैयत. फिर ठीक है, तो जहाँ पे रैयत वाज एक्सपेक्टेड टू पे 20-30%, नाउ इज पेइंग 50-60%, क्योंकि सबको खाना है बीच में. सो दिस इज कॉल्ड एज सब इन्फ्यूडेशन. That we have a feudal lord, zamindar, and feudal lord is appointing sub-feudal, then he up sub-feudal, so sub-infeudation. The process of sub-infeudation, so we have the emergence of entire hierarchy of middlemen. Initially government ने मना किया इसको, But when government was pressurized, उन्होंने कहा ठीक है यार, तो have a special regulation that came which allowed such patni appointments. ठीक है. अब I want to give you a different perspective. ठीक है, distant suction firm शहर में बैठा है, but ये कौन है? आज के दिन में ये लोग कहाँ गए? You know who these people are actually? They are Tagores, Bhattacharya, Malik, Deb. ये जो पूरे बंगाल कम्युनिटी, these are the suction middle pump, suction distant suction pumps. ये वही लोग हैं, वे smart, they knew how to benefit out of the current situation. They came from either the government official class, upper caste, कायस्थ होंगे, ब्राह्मण होंगे, वैद होंगे, and they already literate थे, already working in the previous regime of Bengal Nawab. They got the advantage. उनके पास पैसे बने बनाए थे, ट्रेड कर रहे थे, तो लगा दिए पैसे. What company is doing, you see, it's a very smart business game. Company is trying to create local collaborators जिनका इंटरेस्ट आपके इंटरेस्ट के साथ जुड़ा होगा. So at least one section of Indians should benefit out of companies who will become companies pillars. जमींदार तो बन गए और नए क्लास जो है वो न्यू मिडिल. तो दिस लेड टू द इमर्जेंस ऑफ बंगाली मिडिल क्लास, भद्रलोक कल्चर. तो ये कंपनी तैयार किया है. एंड ऑल दिस पीपल हु बेनिफिटेड फ्रॉम द लैंड इनकम शहर में बैठे हैं, काम तो कुछ है नहीं, पैसे तो आए जा रहे हैं, करे क्या? You control the social capital already, cultural capital already. So these people went for education. These people send their children to English school. These people been their children much very well read. और ये लोग हैं वो जो स्टार्ट करते बंगाल सोशो रिलीजियस रिफॉर्म मूवमेंट. ठीक है. सो टैगोर के शांति, हाउ डू यू थिंक वी हैव शांति निकेतन? पैसे, लैंड, जमीन कहाँ से आती है? टैगोर का मतलब क्या है? ठाकुर. So these are these people who were landlords, big landlords. तो कलकत्ता सिटी में जोरासंग कोई है, आपके जो बड़ा जो कोठी है टैगोर की, वो कैसे बनी? So you see, you have to understand how we are transitioning from the old world to the new world. In the old world जमींदारी थी, new world में ये बन गए. In the eastern side, on the western side, there was export of opium middlemen who earned money. Then they settled in Bombay. They became traders of opium in China को opium supply करते थे. They had the capital. वो होंगे टाटा एंड बिरला. And they put that money into creating modern industry. So these are connections, linkages, उसको भूलना मत आप. कैसे इंडिया चेंज हो रहा है. I am not giving any judgmental opinion here. It is a matter of fact. The point is, company is able to create a class in India whose interests are vested in the success of the company. कंपनी सबको दुश्मन नहीं बनाती है कभी. And that's how they are able to go for a long time. Anyway, many of them were residents of Calcutta who decided to invest their capital in the purchase of land in the countryside. They developed a complex rent collecting structure with various grades of intermediary tenure holders. They are patnidars, 111 hectare. And then what was the outcome for peasants? Cultivators were deprived of their traditional rights of land. Correct. As the landlords were, यहाँ पर landlords were contract bound to remit the revenue within short time. They raised rent to an unprecedented degree. अब इसमें क्या होता है? देखो, if I have to pay 20 to government, मुझे 22 निकालने हैं. If you are 3 peasants of mine, मैं आपसे 5, आपसे 10, आपसे 7. सही हो गया भाई? Right. हाँ. But by the time I take 5 from you and 10 from you, मेरा टाइम तो खत्म हो गया ना. मैं आप तक पहुंचा ही नहीं हूँ. आप मुझे दे देते फ्यूचर में, बट आई हैव नॉट रीच्ड यू. व्हाट डू आई डू? मैं आपसे 5 आप 10 नहीं, आपसे मिलके 22 निकालूंगा पहले, ताकि आई कैन पे ऑन टाइम. एंड व्हेन आई कम टू यू एंड टेक फ्रॉम यू, इट इज माय बेनिफिट आल्सो. क्योंकि मुझे उनको तो टाइम पे देना है. पहले जो लोग हैं उनसे मैं मैक्सिमम उठा लूँ पहले, ताकि उनका हिसाब चुकता कर दूँ. समझ में आ रहा है? तो बिकॉज ऑफ द एनफोर्समेंट ऑफ वेरी हाई नंबर एंड वेरी रिजिड टाइम, it led to increased exploitation of people. So the farmers had to give 50 to 60% of the yield in the form of land revenue instead of 20. Ruthless appropriation of the rural surplus, the peasants were adversely affected. ये तो ठीक है. The cultivators were put on at the mercy of zamindars. The grievances remained unheard as they had no attachment to the government. So सिंपल बात यह है दैट जो फ्यूडल एसोसिएशन बिटवीन जमींदार एंड रैयत सदियों का था, दैट गॉट डिस्टेबलाइज्ड व्हेन द रैयत हैज एनी प्रॉब्लम, they used to go to zamindar as my baap. Zamindar was helping in irrigation, zamindar was helping in law and order, zamindar was the agent of government, zamindar controls the tax structure, zamindar gives you money in case of any need as a money lender, zamindar is your local support and also local exploiter. It's a very toxic relationship. बट थी कुछ ना कुछ टॉक्सिसिटी है, लेकिन कुछ ना कुछ फायदा था उसमें. नाउ दैट इज लॉस्ट. जमींदार हैज नाउ बिकम इवन मोर ब्रूटल बिकॉज ही डजंट केयर, ना आपके जात का है, ना आपका खानदान का है, ना बिरादरी का है, कनेक्शन ही नहीं है. सो पीपल कुड नॉट, जमींदार डिड नॉट टेक एनी इंटरेस्ट इन सॉल्विंग एनी प्रॉब्लम. जैसे आपकी साल की यात्रा होगी, गांव की देवी होगी, पहला प्रसाद जमींदार चढ़ाएगा, आप नहीं चढ़ाएगा जमींदार, मैं कहता हूँ आपसे, आपकी देवी आप देख लो. तो जमींदार वॉज नॉट सिचुएटेड इन विलेज, दैट इज द पॉइंट. तो जनता की प्रॉब्लम सुनेगा कौन? स्टेट. स्टेट तो कोई सुनता ही नहीं था. And then we have a new element that came up because the tax had to be paid in cash. Now we have a requirement of cash. तो कहाँ से कैश आएगी? You can't pay कि भाई आप मेरे ग्रेन्स ले लो. पहले आप पढ़ते हो मेडिवल में कि हाउ द प्रोड्यूस वाज डिवाइडेड, गल्ला बख्शी, लांग बटाई, खेत बटाई वगैरह सब खत्म. हमें कैश चाहिए बस. हिरण्य, हाउ डू यू गेट हिरण्य और कैश? तो किसान को मार्केट बेचना होगा. इफ द प्राइस फॉल्स डाउन, व्हाट टू डू? इफ द फसल लेट होती है 2 हफ्ते से, क्या करोगे? आपको टाइम पे देना है, तो यू नीड मनी लेंडर, यू नीड लोन. तो रिक्वायरमेंट ऑफ लोन became important, and then you have the entry of new element in the village side, that is money lender, साहूकार, महाजन. So अब जब money lender comes into village side, he starts giving money, you have to give something in return. क्या दोगे आप? Land. So एक ऐसा व्यू था कि land became a property, land became a tradable commodity in the market, so it can be mortgaged. So once you mortgage it, तो फिर आपको लोन मिलेगा. But the problem was nobody wants to take over the land. So समझो आप किसान हो, आपके पास टेनर सर्विल की कुछ जमीन में हक है, इस साल का हक है, जमीन आपकी नहीं है बट आपका जमीन का हक है कसने का. तो what you do is to sell that to a money lender, get the cash, pay the tax. And if you're not able to pay the tax loan back, money lender ने आइडियली क्या करना चाहिए? आपसे जमीन हथिया के इनको बेचनी चाहिए. money lender won't do that. ये अच्छा बेटा वहीं पे रहे, but now you keep on paying me. So in the same land, the same farmer who was in the pre-British era the owner, in the company era he was tenant at will. Even thereafter, continuously with every loan, his stature, his authority, his rights in the land reduced gradually. So in the same land, he kept working, but now he has to pay share to the zamindar and to money lender. And जमीन भी उसकी नहीं है. Over time, after 2-4 years, what will happen? उसकी कोई और जरूरत पड़ेगी और कर्जा उठाएगा. He has to pay even larger proportion, 50 नहीं 60 नहीं 70%, 80%. In the same land, he's not going anywhere. Land is not getting transferred. Ownership हो ना हो, जो कुछ है, the kisan stays there. Every succeeding year, his stature in the land decreases. So we have inherent, inbuilt. तो कंपनी एक्सपेक्ट क्या कर रही थी? प्रॉपर्टी बनेगी तब लैंड बेचा जाएगा, नए लोग आएंगे. बट इनके सब किसान, कोई नया किसान नहीं आया, कोई चाहते नहीं आना. So what we have is inbuilt depression. In the same land, the same peasant does the same work, but his proportion of yield decreases over time. तो पीढ़ियां जाती रहेंगी और आपका हक आपकी जमीन में कम होता जाएगा. And that is the worst case scenario. यही है. So the condition of the peasant became even more miserable as the new rule of property was backed up by new judiciary and police. This is next thing. You have rule of law, जो किसान समझता ही नहीं है. He doesn't have the receipts of the loans taken and loans repaid, because सब कुछ लिखा है मुंशी जी के किताब में. मुंशी जी बैठे हैं जमींदार के पास, इसको ना पढ़ना आता है. आपने मूवी देखी है वो 2 बीघा जमीन? अरे आंख से पानी रुकेगा नहीं आपके. मतलब such a condition of Indian peasant, 2 बीघा जमीन. You should watch that movie, fantastic. But anyway, so new judiciary, people won't understand, and then these judges and police are in the cahoots with the zamindar also. So there is a book. I think you should be able to if you have a question where you have to write the condition of peasant or zamindar, you can definitely write 2 बीघा जमीन, no problem. Or you can also write contempt 2 बीघा जमीन तो post independence era की context story है. In the British era, in the company era आपको लिखना है example, तो बंकिम चंद्र चटर्जी has wrote a book called Bangladeshir Krishak. A peasant of Bengal. It's an essay, long essay by Bankim Chandra Chatterjee. In this essay, there is a character. His name is Paran Mandal. Name of the character is Paran Mandal. He is a peasant. और उसकी क्या अवस्था होती है, ठीक है. He becomes a victim of such kind of zamindari extortion and money extortion, and कैसे उसकी अवस्था विकट होती है. If you want to go out of Bengal, this example is the most appropriate because it comes from Bengal and it is contemporary. But अगर आप चाहे तो you can also mention होरी from गोदान. गोदान तो बड़ी होगी, मुंशी प्रेमचंद की किताब है गोदान, सुना है नाम? आई थिंक यू बिलोंग टू डिफरेंट जनरेशन. उसके सीरीज बनी है, वो भी देखो. ऐसे आंखों के मतलब ये क्राई, आप रोगे आंसू में, खून के आंसू रोगे अवस्था देख के. बट एनीवे, तो गोदान, गाय का दान, गोदान. एंड वहां पे कैरेक्टर जो लूटा जाता है उसका नाम होरी है, HOR है, होरी. बट दैट इज फ्रॉम द अवध रीजन. तो अवध रीजन का है, तो इसलिए मैं कहानी नहीं दे रहा हूँ. द मोस्ट अप्रोप्रिएट फ्रॉम बंगाल एंड कंटेम्पोररी इज फॉरन मंडल ऑफ बांग्लादेशर कृषक बाय बंकुनी चटर्जी. बट कहानी वही है सदियों की. Then, in the process, a class of landless sharecroppers and agricultural laborers emerged who lost the land. Thus, the introduction of permanent settlement led to the evolution of a new set of agrarian relations that was extremely regressive. क्या नया relation था? Landlord is absent landlord sitting in city. In between here are patni holders, patni one, patni patnidar, दूर दूर patnidar, etc. And in the end, जो किसान है उसकी जमीन भी नहीं है और वो indebted है. इतनी बुरी अवस्था है. और इट इज नॉट ओनली अबाउट जमींदारी. इन ऑल रैयतवाड़ी, महलवाड़ी, वी हैव अ वेरी फेमस लेफ्टिनेंट गवर्नर ऑफ पंजाब इन 1940s. ही हैड डन क्वाइट वेल फॉर फार्मर्स. इरिगेशन कुछ क्या था उसने, उसका नाम था मालकम डार्लिंग. तो मालकम डार्लिंग का फेमस कोटेशन है इन द कॉन्टेक्स्ट ऑफ पंजाब. ही सेज अ पेजेंट ऑफ पंजाब इज बॉर्न इन डेट, लिव्स इन डेट, डाइज इन डेट. We can say that very well for Bengal and India. The peasant of India was born in debt, lived in debt, and died in debt. So, Malcolm Darling, although it comes from later era, the quote is very much applicable to this situation also. The point is that we have this new agrarian structure. इसमें एक और कैरेक्टर रह जाता है अपना, और वो है जोतेदार. थोड़ा सा उसके बारे में बताना पड़ेगा आपको. देखो, अब हो क्या रहा है, there's a debate amongst historians कि this thing led to drastic change in the countryside. सब कुछ चेंज होगा, ये सब all these relations were changed and extremely this सब, but इसमें लिमिट है. It has not changed everywhere. If you understand, in West Bengal and in North or Central or East Bengal, situation was full different. In the West Bengal, what we have is जोतेदार. Being जोतेदार कौन होता है? जोतेदार is a big landowner. So he is below जमींदार and above peasant. बड़ा peasant. जमींदार क्या होता है? उसके पास पूरा डिस्ट्रिक्ट है, वहां पे 500, 100, 150, 200 गांव है. बट 2-4 गांव में जो एक सबसे बड़ा किसान होगा, दैट इज जोतेदार. सो ही इज क्लोजर टू द पेजेंट. अब जोतेदार कंट्रोल्स द पेजेंट. तो जमींदारी तो बहुत ऊपर की बात होगी, पूरे डिस्ट्रिक्ट लेवल पे. वो जमींदार आए, उसकी जमीन बेची जाए. Point take it to what extent it affected actual village life. If the 50% zamindari are resold in the market in the auction, to what extent it affected the actual zamindari? That is the question. So, in case of West Bengal, it did not affect much because the local बड़ा आदमी है, गली का जो दादा है, शहर का दादा छोड़ दो, गली का दादा, that is जोतेदार, he remained constant. he never changed. So he was able to control old type of exploitation and continuity of old system of society. But in case of other parts of Bengal, Jotidar was not so powerful. Zamindar used to control. So once his agents came, tax structure changed, people lost lands and lots of things happened. So if you, the question is asked to what extent there was change or it brought complete rural revolution in case of Bengal, we say bhai ruko. In some parts, yes, in some parts. तो ये जो thesis जो लाया है, now you can't have a same opinion for entire huge Bengal province. You have to go from province का sub part to sub part. Micro study, regional studies are important. So in case of Zamindari का impact at micro level and regionally differentiated picture that emerged, historians कौन important है? अर्जित and रत्नलेखा राय. तो ये ज्योतिदार thesis जो दिया है, it is given by Rajat and Ratnalekha Roy. So the question is, to what extent there was continuity or change in Bengal? Well, change तो पक्का है, प्रॉपर्टी नहीं बन गई, नए एग्रेरियन क्लास स्ट्रक्चर बन गया, सब कुछ है. There is some continuity also because Jotidars continued. But that is not for entire Bengal, only for some part. The change is substantial but not drastic. Is the अब इसमें और एक खुराफात है इंडियंस की जो होती है जनरली कंपनी को ठगाने की, वो ये है कि when the tax was not paid on time to the state and the sunset law was broken, तो उस केस में लैंड वाज ऑक्शन्ड. ऑक्शन खरीदेगा कौन? ये तो आपका इलाका है. कलकत्ता सिटी छोड़ के इतने अंदर बर्दवान में कौन जाएगा? You should be able to go only when you can collect, you have the muscle power to collect the tax in that domain. If you don't have muscle power, आप खरीदोगे नहीं. तो ऑक्शन में भी जो बिडिंग होता है, जो बिड करने लोग कौन होते हैं? जमींदार का भाई, जमींदार की पत्नी, उसका नौकर, उसका चाचा. तो वही बिड करेंगे, जमींदारी उनकी दुआ उनकी फैमिली में आएगी. तो अब जैसे ये मॉडल क्रैक कर दिया, देन मेनी जमींदार्स पर्पसफुली स्टार्टेड टू डिफॉल्ट. कि हम टैक्स भरेंगे ही नहीं, बेचेंगे तो हम दोबारा खरीद लेंगे, सस्ते में पड़ जाएगा हमें. सो लॉट्स ऑफ पॉइंट है कि टू व्हाट एक्सटेंट, अगेन द सेम क्वेश्चन, इट क्रिएटेड न्यू जमींदारी. डिड इट? Yes, to some extent, yes. So this Maliks and Devs and Bhattacharyas and Tagores, they did come completely anew, fresh from cities, from trading and official and government clerical background to villages. Yes. Suction firm बने, absolutely था, but at the same time, in some other cases, it was just a fictional change in hand. Indians were able to thug the company properly. तो दोनों है इसमें. So there is not ऐसे नहीं कि रातों रात. Again, why I am telling this point? Because the question is about to what extent change and continuity. Well, in case of this new commercial capital, this change. But जब तक पुराने लोग ही खरीद रहे हैं, it is continuity. We have mix of both, some change and some. There is no drastic change. There is substantial change. So one is at the village level, drastic नहीं but substantial है. In some pockets based on जोतेदार. At top level, खरीदने वाला कौन है? ऑक्शंस वेयर रिग. जैसे आज भी इफ यू गो फॉर टेंडर इन गवर्नमेंट, वो रिग होते हैं ना कि तुम इतना भरो, मैं इतना भरता हूँ, मिल जाएगा तेरे को, मुझे बाद में परसेंटेज दे देना. ये तो होता है टेंडरिंग में. आपको पता है. सेम थिंग इज देयर. ऑक्शन में ऑक्शन हो रहे, टेंडर भरने लोग आए, वही तुमके भाई चचा है. तो नई बात थोड़ी है अपनी परंपरा में. एनीवे, सो the misery inflicted by the British on the Indians was of a different kind, which was never experienced before. It reduced the peasant to extreme poverty and ushered in a period of chronic famine, starvation, and hunger. By the 1820s, it was clear that the settlement had failed to meet its original expectations. Now, when I say failed to meet, I did not mean company was at loss. Company के expectation जो शुरू में हमने कहा कुछ कुछ खरे हुए हैं, they got stable income. But जो improvement of agriculture, welfare of peasant, that what failed. ठीक है. Any doubt online? Aditi, Rutuja, Vaishnavi, Pratik? No doubt. ठीक है. So we stop here. We have a small part here that is already covered. So next lecture we'll finish this mercantile era completely and start with the industrial era, in which we'll go back again to political story and we'll shift our focus to north and northwest. Punjab, Afghanistan, Sindh में क्या हो रहा है? And then we'll come back to again administrative changes, legal changes, रैयतवाड़ी etc. बाद में करेंगे वो. ठीक है, चलो, थैंक यू.